Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ReelTok, episode 97. We are here with my two beautiful co-hosts, Mr. Seth's Film Reviews and Mr. Tyler C. Whitmore. Cam could not make it today. He just bought a house, so I believe he and Emma are doing house things. Renovating, rewiring. I'm sure he'll speak all about it next week when he's back. But we have a good episode for you guys today. We're going to go through our top 10 horror movies of the decade in honor of Longlegs' release this week. We'll also obviously do a Longlegs review slash deep spoiler dive. Tyler and I are going to be talking about some real bros of Simi Valley. Briefly, I would assume, not much to spoil in that one. Fun Sunday though, Wimbledon final going on right now. So if you watched any sports today, Wimbledon final or the European Championships, let us know in the comments. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on the outcomes? But I'll pivot over to my beautiful co-hosts. We'll start with Tyler. Tyler, how you doing? How was your week?
Been doing well. This week was a busy week. Traveled over for work to Baltimore and Pennsylvania, which are long flights from Arizona. There's no direct flights, which is crazy because I feel like Baltimore and Phoenix are large enough airports that have direct flights, but it was like basically 2 full travel days each way where I'm flying from Phoenix to Atlanta and then had a layover in Atlanta, then flew up to Baltimore, then had to drive from Baltimore like 2 hours to Pennsylvania. So I know I posted on my Instagram story, I was like Baltimore and then or Atlanta, then Baltimore, then Pennsylvania. People are like, where the hell are you traveling? Like 3 different states in one day. I'm like, no, it was just one trip, but just a lot of layovers. But yeah, it was solid. Work travel is always super hectic and busy. It's just funny because it's so opposite where like I don't love work travel because it's like so much more busy and hectic and takes away from other stuff. Whereas like when we talk to Cam, he's like, oh, I love work travel because he's like, I get a little relaxed. I get to take a breath away from being a dad and just like enjoy like a night in a hotel and regroup and watch the movies. Whereas for me, it's like I'm watching less movies on work travel. So just kind of points to the differences of where we're at in our lives, but very excited for him to get his house going. Cause I know he's already feeling you get super excited to buy a house and you start the renovations, which are super exciting. And then that wears off in like 2 hours and you're like, God damn it. So much work to do. And it gets so annoying and frustrating, but yeah, so I know the grind he's about to go through, but very exciting. But yeah, back home now, tired, just want to sleep today, honestly, but we prevail. College football 25 drops tomorrow, so going to be playing a shit ton.
Is it?
Yeah, well, it was next Friday, and then I tweeted about it, and then people are like, oh, if you pre-order it, you get early access on Monday. So I was like, oh, so I'll go and pre-order that right now.
I will buy it, Tyler. I'll buy it so I can beat you. I'm telling you, I will buy it.
All right, well, bet. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. You get to just pick it's like an American who's a fan of like the Premier League, where it's just like you just can kind of pick a team because obviously you have no affiliation with anything. It's like you can just pick a college football team to just become a huge fan of. I think it'd be funny if you did like Notre Dame or something that's just like opposite of Cam, because like he's the type that would just kind of actually get like really annoyed if you started just like really rooting for his rivals and like show up on like how we've been doing this week and be like, been a great week, like my rival beat Purdue. But no, good stuff. But yeah, that's me for the week.
Very nice. Are you traveling more the rest of the summer, or is that kind of it for?
Yeah, well, so for sure in a month from now, I have my buddy's bachelor party which is a cruise, a 3-day cruise from Orlando, Florida down to the Caribbean. But then I think I might have some work travel to like Minnesota, possibly Kentucky, some other stuff in between now and then. But yeah, with my new position, I started like a month ago. I'm traveling quite a bit more. So a lot less time to do fun stuff, unfortunately. But, we got to be adults, I guess.
Yeah, we got to pay our bills. When is this new job going to take you to New York on a business trip?
I don't know, man. There's not a lot of like engineering production facilities in New York City, but I'll probably go for this job. I've been to like Buffalo, New York, which is like the furthest spot in New York away from where you are. Pretty much.
That's a very long drive.
Yeah, maybe we'll meet in the middle in like Albany or something if I come that way again.
Seth, how you doing?
Good. Really busy week, like I said last time. When you have a week off and then you go back to it again, like the meetings are just like so much still on top of. So yeah, crazy week. Obviously, I spoke to you guys the other day. I ended up in hospital on like Thursday night, which was terrible. But all good, perfectly fine. I feel like hospitals in general, no matter what you go for, it's just like the most depressing place, just in general.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. And you're waiting for hours as well in the middle of the night. I had like meetings in the morning. I was like, Jesus. I haven't been to hospital for like 15 years. Yet in the last like 7 months, I've been twice, which is just fucking stupid for different things. But yeah, so that was annoying. Rest of the week, just really, really busy. Had some UFC on last night. Met with Joe this morning. Went out for breakfast with Joe. That was nice.
Nice.
That's kind of about it, to be honest. Say again.
This morning you saw Joe?
Yeah, he was in Sheffield anyway.
Oh, I was gonna say that's
with my friend or something.
Okay.
So he just like messaged me and then went for like breakfast with me and mine. That was really good. I had a goat's cheese and chicken sandwich with like a tomato relish.
Sounds delicious.
Shit was good. When we went to Amsterdam, because I was in Amsterdam, like Holland in general was like massive for cheese. We bought like loads of fucking incredible cheese back. Me and Anna have just been like gorging on the cheese boards, like crackers and salami and stuff like that. Shit is so good. I'm a big cheese guy. Like blue cheese, love blue cheese, any cheese. The smellier the better, as we know.
I'm on the same page, man. Give me funky cheese all day.
I'm good. You guys enjoy your mold. I'm good on blue cheese.
Yeah, enjoy
mold and sushi.
I will enjoy it
good, though. Like I'm a wait, feta's Greek, isn't it, George?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm a big Greek food guy, and I love feta. Like love feta cheese.
That's best cheese. There's no cheese better than feta.
I like feta, but that's like being a fan of like the Celtics. It's like a top 5 like.
Oh my god, that's disrespectful.
It's like having like Interstellar in your top 5. Like shit's good, but
I guess I should have said the Bucks because they're basically just as popular and they have a Greek man on their team, so that would have made more sense. So
that would have actually been a really.
I'm not firing on all cylinders yet. It's 6:23 a.m.
That would have been a good one. But yeah, other than that, just like nothing really. Also, we'll go over what we've been watching anyway, but been killing Game of Thrones. I actually want to go over, I want to tell our listeners this, and I'll go on to what we've been watching. Me and Anna made like a top 10 characters list so far as to where we're at during the season. Man's fucking good, but I'll go on to that.
When we get to what are we watching? My week good. Did I do anything like special?
Why did you speak like Yoda then? My week
good.
Weird way of saying it.
My week was
good.
Yoda would have been good. My week
no,
was.
Yeah, go would have been good. Good. My week was, wouldn't it? Yeah, you just. I'm like, no, sorry, you spoke like a caveman. That's what you spoke like. I just missed the middle part.
Jesus. Carlos Alcaraz opening the match with a break of serve after a 22-point game. Insane. But no, my week was good. I saw Longlegs twice, and that was kind of like about all I did. Today's Sunday. Yesterday, Saturday, I went downtown, met up with a couple of friends, just got a couple of drinks, got dinner, and just kind of hung out all night.
You met with Alex one of the days, didn't you? For lunch?
Not for lunch. So I saw Alex like super quick. So he was probably like 5 or 6 blocks and an avenue away from my building on, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday. And he was there for this like Peacock Olympic ceremony introduction event. I don't know. I honestly didn't get the details, but by the time I met up with him, I didn't have enough time to sit and eat lunch because I had to get back to my building for a meeting that I could not miss, unfortunately. And yeah, so I literally just walked him to the parking garage where his car was, and that was it. Just a quick 5-minute hello to Alex.
Imagine the thing he was there for the Peacock Olympics was he's joining the Olympic team for like movie reviewers, Summer Olympics, and one person from every country just watches a movie and then they have to write a review. So you get the gold, silver, and bronze.
And whoever's review gets the most likes on Letterboxd wins gold. But yeah, saw him briefly. Was obviously, as always, good seeing Alex. But that's it. I didn't really I don't know. I didn't do like anything noteworthy this week. Work. I feel like I say this every week, but I feel like as every week goes by, work just gets busier and busier. But I had a busy week at work, and that kind of just has been like consuming me over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. Not in a bad way. Busy at my work is obviously, let me rephrase. Stressful at my work is a good thing because that means we're busy, and busy is obviously a very good thing at work, especially when you work in, especially when you work in something that offers a service. So your entire business relies on like commissions. But work was good, but that's it. Before we get into what have we been watching, shout out to our executive producers, Mr. Stefan Johnson, Stefan Niebrick, and Sean Morales. And as always, if you like us, if you like listening to us talk and yap for a couple hours a week about movies, toss us a subscribe, toss us a follow on social media platforms all over. Shout out our boy Mateo. He's been really killing the content lately on Instagram and TikTok as well, giving us good edits, making us look cool and funny. And then I was going to save this for the news portion, but, I think we should open our episode with this. Shelley Duvall passed away this week at the age of 75, obviously primarily known for her incredible acting performance in The Shining, but as well as other productions like Nashville, Three Women, McAbs, and Mr.
One. Annie Hall? I haven't seen it. I think she was in
that. Annie Hall. I haven't seen the Woody Allen movie.
Woody Allen, not too long. Yeah.
Yeah, so very notable, prominent actress. Seth, I feel like you probably had the strongest connection to her if you've seen a lot of her movies.
Yeah, I mean,
especially just how much you love The Shining and Kubrick. But yeah,
sad, I mean, it's a very sad one because I think obviously what happened with Shelley Duvall in terms of kind of her mental state and illnesses and kind of the way she kind of took a break of acting and struggled to get roles and kind of the whole sort of life cycle with her and her career, because I've always thought that she was like, and again, it's completely subjective, but I've always loved her role in The Shining. And I think kind of reading what she went through, I think that the main issue with her career is that her career has basically just been turned into a conspiracy theory. That's kind of what her career's boiled down to all the time, which is quite sad when she was a really, really talented actor, and it's kind of, every time you hear about Shelley Duvall, past few years, past like decades, it's just been about the Kubrick thing, which obviously was proved, untrue many, many times. But yeah, it's a difficult one. Very, very sad. Seems that we've had a lot of really sad actor deaths recently. So like Donald Sutherland, Matthew Perry, Bernard Hill, Shelley Duvall, obviously. And it seems that we've been hit quite a few times recently. A lot of sad deaths. And I think it shows kind of how much you can feel connected to someone as well, even without knowing them, just from seeing a performance on the screen. You know what I mean? But yeah, really, really sad. And yeah, it's a good way to open up 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we won't keep it too sad, but I figured we would want to touch on that at the beginning of our episode instead of waiting till, we do our news towards the end. But we'll go through what we've been watching. Seth, I'm going to start with you because now I'm just curious about this Game of Thrones ranking that you're speaking of. So outside of Game of Thrones, what have you been watching? And then we'll get to the Thrones.
When did I last speak to you?
Weren't you on last week?
Yeah, you were on.
Yeah, what was that, Saturday or Sunday?
The 7th.
7th.
The morning of the 7th.
Okay, yeah. Cool. So I watched I think it's In a Violent Nature. Watched that.
No bueno.
Didn't hate it. Didn't like it. Very 2.5 for me. Like this perspective, I agree with many people saying, I think you said this as well. I very much disagree with people who said it should have been shorter and Would Work Best was a short film. I think it's so weirdly made where it cuts far too frequently to have any meaning. And I also thought there were too many kills, which is maybe a me issue, because it kind of to the point where, I don't know, it just felt like when things did happen, they really carried nothing with them. And I kind of expected a little bit more. But yeah, it's fine. Watched Hulk, which I really, really like. The Ang Lee Hulk, and I'm probably on my own with that. I don't think Nalvis really likes it as well, actually. I watched the other Oz Perkins. I mean, Oz Perkins has done like 3 films, I think. I watched The Black Coat's Daughter, which was good. I really liked it. I think 3.5. Really, really interesting. I watched a Tobe Hooper movie, The Funhouse, which is fine. Raising Cain, Brian De Palma, John Lithgow. Loved that. And then I watched Immaculate last night. Immaculate's a tricky one because I like what it was going for. It just didn't really do much for me. I don't know. I got at the ending. At the end, it was cool. But yeah, we've basically been killing Game of Thrones quite a lot. I think we're on So we're like 3 episodes away now from Reigns of Castamere, which I have to live through again, which is, rip. But I have noticed as I've been going through, and we both said this, I remember season 1 and 2 like really well. Like I remember all the big moments. Like, yeah, I remember that happens. But now I'm like, I actually forgot so much what happens, which is great. Now I'm watching through because things are still surprising me again, because it's been like 5 years. Obviously, I remember the big moments like a red wedding, because how could you forget when you watched it the first time? But a lot of them forgetting. So we made like a top 10 characters list. Now, I know you've both seen it. Wait, Tyler, you've seen it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So don't spoil anything because, I'll kill you violently.
Because you haven't seen the final 2 or final 3 seasons?
Final 3. No, 4.
You haven't seen
4. No,
Brother.
3. Sorry. 3. No, 6, 7, 8. 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So I've seen 1 to 5. But I know what happened. But I also just forgot so much that it's like, when I say my character rankings now, these will probably move up and down because I'm forgetting actions and moments. So this is like my top 10 goated list as of right now, midway through season 3. Okay. At 10th place, we have Bronn. I love his carelessness. No honor whatsoever. That guy just doesn't give a shit. He's so cool. He also like really just psychopathic as well, which is funny. 9, another psychopathic man, Tywin. I think I just love the actor. I think he's the perfect choice for the role. I also think, do you know who would have been really cool in that role? Christopher Lee, who played Saruman, obviously, and I just think he would work really well as well. That kind of personality. Yeah, Tywin, crazy guy. I just think every scene I'm so interested. When they're in like Harrenhal and he has like Arya as like his like servant, I guess, for a little bit. Every scene with those two just fucking goes so hard. 8, I have Arya. I really like Arya, especially in these. I think in the first season, where she's like in King's Landing, she has like there's like the dance class is what they call it, like sword and stuff. I'm like, whatever, not really that interested in that bit. But I think as she kind of escapes Harrenhal with the 2 other guys, I think it's really interesting. 7, I have Daenerys. I actually don't love the first season of Daenerys when she's actually with Khal Drogo when he's like, spoiler, like alive. But when he starts like breaking off her own and she gets out of Karth and the dragon starts to get a little bit bigger, like the end of season 2, and she starts to kind of separate herself and build her own armor. When she first meets the Unsullied, which has just been passed, crazy. You know what I mean? Like she just becomes just an insane character. 6, I have Samwell Tarly, the undisputed GOAT, by the way. I love Samwell Tarly because, he's just such a cutie, you know what I mean? And I will say as well, my favorite scenes are the Wall. Everything to do with the Wall, I love. Everything to do with the Wall. I think it's so fucking interesting. 5, I've got Jon. I think Jon's like a staple, top 5 at this point. He just offers a lot. He's that guy. 4, Brienne of Tarth. She is so fucking cool, man. Like, the scene where she's taking Jaime, obviously, down to King's Landing, and there's 3 guys there, she just like obliterates them in like 30 seconds. It's the craziest shit. It was like when I saw Fiona beat all the Robin Hood in Shrek 1, when she has that scene. That's the feeling. It was crazy. 3, Rob. Yeah, it's crazy. 3, Rob. Again, Rob is like a staple. He leads Dark Army. He doesn't lose a war. Rip Rob. That's all I'm going to say. Sad. I remember watching Red Wedding for the first time, just like the craziest shit. No one expected that. It was just fucking wild. 2, I don't know if this guy gets enough love. He probably does. Varys. Varys might be.
Oh, yeah, you tweeted about him.
Bro, he is so fucking such a menace. He has the coolest monologues. Yeah, he has the coolest monologues. He fucking double plays everyone like he's in a fucking Mission Impossible movie. He just walks around up to no good. You never know what to trust or not. He's like Lord Baelish, but like likable. You know what I mean? I think he's like that, and he has just cool moments. And then 1, obviously, is Tyrion because he is probably the best written character in terms of he's kind of like morally grey, but you also want to root for him. But he's like a likable Lannister. He has all these different conflicts and stuff with like his sister and Jaime and whatever, and also what happened to him as a kid because of his dad. I think he's like the top tier of Game of Thrones. What are we thinking?
Who is your number 9? Sorry, I forgot.
Tywin.
Okay, so you don't have Jaime in your top 10.
Nah, because he fucking annoys me too much. Like, you know what? Now I'm like, yeah, but I don't know, man. Like my honorable mentions were I like the Lord Commander, on the Wall. He's cool. I really like him.
Is this a top 10 through what you have watched, like through season 5, or through what you have watched now on your rewatch?
Right now, so it's a midway through season 3. So like Jamie is slowly getting up the list because of what's happening now.
Which makes sense. It is until season 4 when Jamie starts to be
season 4. Yeah. Because I do remember this bit, and then like I like Jackin, the assassin guy, because he's just fucking cool, man. The one who's like kills people for hire. He's crazy.
I don't know if you're missing this person, but I'm not gonna say who because I don't want to spoil. Like
you can say the character.
No, I don't want to say the character because I want you to just.
Yeah, I have so many comments on his list too, but like
so
many
I
people are related to like stuff later.
Yeah,
so
you can say a character's name. I'll know a character's name.
Now, I know you know the character, but like I don't want to say a character and then the rest of the show that you watch, you're looking specifically at this character with like a different. Like I want you to just experience it.
Yeah.
And
can you not remember season 3 though, where I'm up to?
Well, no, because like
I know where you're up.
They're insignificant, but then they become very significant.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. But can you not remember if they're already significant, or is it later down the line?
No, the character I'm thinking of is not significant right now. You know of this person very well, but they are not significant.
Is it Jorah?
I'm not going to tell this man. It's not, but I'm not going to tell you, regardless. Yeah. All right. Well, other than that, that's a good list.
Now I'm interested.
I think like the second most voted Discord poll for the week for what the draft should be. What one was best summer vibe movies, but number 2 is like best Game of Thrones character. So whoever voted that just kind of got a little flavor of that anyway.
Yeah,
so I just gave my top 10. Exactly. I'm intrigued now. I'm going to keep you up to date anyway because I don't. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So I guarantee when it happens, if it's not before, I'll know, and I'll be like, oh yeah, shit. But there's just bits I can't remember now because it's been like 5 years, you know? That's the issue.
We'll do a Game of Thrones character draft once you finish the show. And then all 3 of us will participate.
Yeah, I was in the Discord last night. I was speaking to some of the guys in there about it on the TV channel. And I just kept having to remind them, like, please be fucking careful what you're about to say.
That's intimidating.
Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I was like, it was the risk because I was just telling people like what my favorite characters were and stuff. But yeah, it's shows are scary. You know, something's been around a while and people just regularly speak about what happened and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know what happens in season 6, basically. Oh, sorry, season 8, because that's just like one of the most, talked about finale seasons ever for the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it, and it's nice to be back in a, like a TV show phase with Anna where we're like actually addicting to keep watching it. It's not just like a weekly one. I'm going to be brutally honest though, I haven't watched an episode of House of Dragons since episode 2.
Same. Actually, no. Episode 1's the only one I've watched.
I really like it. It's just I've been watching Game of Thrones, and I'm like, I don't really want to go there now because I'm all with these guys, you know. But I do really like it, so I'm definitely going to watch it. Say again.
You guys don't like event television?
No, we do, but that's why I'm watching Game of Thrones. Well, technically, it's not really event, but you know what I mean. Like,
Dragons like barely event television because people outside Twitter, like, I don't think no one in my real life's watching this shit, dude.
Oh, ever?
Nah, really?
No one's watching House of Dragon.
What are you talking about?
The viewership is massive. No one's watching this season. The viewership's like low.
It is lower than last season, to be fair.
It's up right now.
It is way lower than last season.
It is, yeah. It was like, I think the premiere episode got like 1 million less viewers than than season 1.
The lowest. I thought it was like 1 million less views, like the lowest viewed of like.
But it was still higher than like The Last of Us, no? Which still did pretty well comparatively. I mean, I don't really know. The numbers. Do you remember the numbers for Game of Thrones? They were like in the latest season, they were crazy.
And like, TV shows are hard to like calculate or like compare to because it's like every episode of Game of Thrones is viewed like way less than like Young Sheldon or The Big Bang Theory. So like anything on like cable TV is gonna blow any like HBO show out of the water.
It is surprising though, because House of the Dragon 1, like as far as most people are concerned, was a good show. You know, maybe it didn't live up to the heights as Game of Thrones season 1, but certainly in some areas like the production design and because the overall budget and stuff, and they brought a lot into it. But it is surprising how much it dropped from premiere to premiere, you know, in terms because I'm not sure Game of Thrones would have been the same, you know.
I think it's just a 2-year thing. Like it's just the fact that it took 2 years instead of 1 was kind of
yeah, you might be right actually, but yeah, it's definitely less so than 2 years ago. I feel like I see less videos about it as well on TikTok in general this season than last season. Like last season, I had to really avoid spoilers. And this season, I'm not seeing them. Do you know what I mean?
I posted for every episode last season, and this season I've posted for 2 of the 4.
I posted for 0. Yeah, I used to. I did like not most episodes last season as well.
Unfortunately,
we'll do a recap, obviously, at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, we'll still review it.
you guys are correct. Season 1, episode 1 had 10 million viewers. Season 2, episode 1 had 7.8 million viewers. So
2.2
a little over a 20% drop off.
Wow, I thought it was like a million. That's actually like, I mean, to be fair, 7.8 million is still like higher than like most of the shows that are on TV now. So like respectively, yeah, it's still a big drop off, is it, from season 1?
Yeah.
Big drop off.
Carlos, I'll keep you guys updated throughout the match. Carlos with the double break in the first set, up 4-1.
I don't know what that means.
Djokovic is washed, is what it means.
Kind of is what it means. Tyler, we'll move on to you. What have you been watching?
Didn't watch a ton. Had a 4-day gap without watching any movies. But after the episode last week, I watched Real Bros of Simi Valley, and then texted George saying like, "Hey, yo, if you like the YouTube series, you should watch this." So we'll chat that a little bit later. Jimmy Tatro, who he also had a TV show like American Vandal. He's been in been a supporting role on quite a few stuff. He's not, I don't know if he's married or just been dating forever to Zoe Deutsch. So they're together, but
that's not the show with that clip, is it? Where it's like
the baby.
Yo, get your boy dog.
That
is. And I will say, right, that's the only clip I've ever seen from that show. Every single time I'll say I'll watch it in full because I think it's fucking hilarious. I don't know why. It just for some reason that clip just gets me. It's weird.
I think you would find the show hysterical, genuinely.
Probably. Is it all like that?
It's it's a mock reality TV show, kind of. It's fucking hilarious. It's just it's like, how would you describe them as?
Oh, is it like a reality films, that sort of? Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's a YouTuber who did comedy sketch videos, and then they made this YouTube series 8 years ago of a couple episodes of the stuff called Real Bros of Simi Valley, and then they made this movie, which is basically just a longer version of the YouTube show. It's an hour and a half of their sketch stuff, which is exactly what I want out of a silly show like that that's gonna make a movie. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, make it some action heist, crazy stray from what it is.
Is it better than the Blue Mountain State film, Tyler?
I didn't love the Blue Mountain State film.
It's so shit, but it's quite good.
But it's definitely
is it better than Blue Mountain State. The show.
The show, I think I like Blue Mountain State, the show, better, but the Real Bros of Simi Valley movie is definitely better.
Okay,
but it's just so funny the shit they come up with, and it's genuinely a very witty and smart. But I watched that, and then later Riley and I watched Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Again, we're rewatching the Harry Potter franchise and the slowest.
You've been doing that.
One
every 3 months.
Yeah. It's nice and slow. You space them out. Good movie, fun movie. Their haircuts in that one are so funny. They just all
they are. Harry goes mental in that.
Yeah, I mean, even Ron's too.
Ron,
just a mop head. But yeah, obviously, Cedric Diggory, what an icon, what a man, what a legend, Robert Pattinson. And then Ray Fiennes. That's the first time he kind of shows up. So just cool movie, man. Cool movie.
That is the first time he shows up. Yeah, I just thought about that.
Yeah.
And he shows up well because the whole final sequence in the maze is so fucking good. I still find it kind of creepy now. Some of the shit goes on. You know when Victor Crumb gets possessed? When Victor Crumb gets possessed, he just runs on. Yeah. Jesus. It's actually fucking creepy. And he gets pulled under the bushes and stuff. It's wild, honestly.
Scary.
It
gets scary. And then Ray Fiennes puts on one of the best acting performances ever.
Yeah. Victor Crumb, kind of a fraud though, because he's the best Quidditch player in the world, and he's still in school. Why would you not drop out at that point? You got your life.
Also,
dude, we've had this exact conversation before about your Victor Crumb hating.
Victor Crumb, right? I will say this. He's a dodgy fella as well because he's meant to be 19, right?
Yeah,
or 18.
and he's going after.
Hermione's 14 or 15. Yeah. And everyone's all right, whatever. Yeah, you want to dance with her? Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think that's kind of wild, I'll be honest.
This exact conversation about Victor Crumb being a fucking.
Fuck Victor Crumb, man. What a
interesting fellow.
Yeah, what a guy.
And then didn't watch any movies while I was traveling basically until my flight home. So then 4 days later, watched Knives Out because it's a 4-hour flight total. So Knives Out first. And damn, I put this in my letterbox review, but Daniel Craig, and I haven't seen Knives Out in 3 years now. I love him so much as Benoit Blanc. It's crazy. His accent, his mannerisms. He's so silly and goofy in that movie. I love him so much. I had a great time with it. It's been a long time since I've seen Knives Out, and I still really, really like that movie. And Daniel Craig, what a man. And it's like the Knives Out 3 cast, I think is really good. I think it's definitely better than Knives Out 2 or Glass Onion. But yeah, I forgot how just good the cast of Knives Out is.
Yeah, the first one's great. Especially for the
when you
first
have like
film.
Lakeith Stanfield saying like 3 words the whole movie and has like 2 seconds of screen time, like that just shows how like stacked your
when Knives Out 3 cast news comes out, everyone immediately tweets like, "Wow, finally Knives Out has a good cast." As if
it's because of the
Knives Out
second one, though, isn't it?
Yeah, because the second one for sure. But like, as if Knives Out 1 isn't probably the best whodunit movie ever.
Yeah, it's because of like the drop off, in my opinion, of the cast from the first one to the second was like crazy.
Yeah,
not even just the cast members, just how they work together in the film.
Yeah,
as well.
It's not the cast members. It's just, I mean, it's kind of the cast members. You're going from
both.
Tony Collette and Lakeith Stanfield to, and I know you love Dave Bautista, but like going from those two to Dave Bautista and Matt.
Hey, Dave Innocent. But yeah, I know what you mean. And yeah, I mean, the cast in the second one is like, it was fine, but I also think it's generally just, I don't think the film was nearly as good anyway. So I think, that's always going to be an issue, isn't it? That's always going to be
the second one is very much, we want wider appeal now. Like now we
want definitely.
Wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then second leg of the flight home, or continue the same leg, I guess. Second movie was Old. Rewatched that again. Good movie. The guy next to me was just locked in on my iPad watching it. He was watching The Shawshank Redemption and Loki. Like, I haven't seen that in a hot minute too. So we were kind of just like, and I rewatched Old like 3 weeks ago. So
you just look at it. We were
kind of like we were just trading, and that was exciting. And I tweeted this too because I didn't watch anything on my flight there, just because like I was like so tired. I was like, I'm just gonna pop in a podcast and like fade in and out of sleep on the flight. But the person in front of me was watching Arthur the King, that Mark Wahlberg like dog movie from this year, and I watched a good chunk of it. I was watching basically the whole thing. I was like, I might just log this on Letterboxd for some long.
Cam would. That is a Cam kind of thing.
I watched a shit ton of that movie, but shout out Mark Wahlberg for being an asshole. And what is it? 2 days ago, watched Longlegs, and then after that, watched Mad God. Which Mad God, what a freaking vile, filthy, awesome
30 years or 32 years or whatever.
So crazy. And like it's impossible for me to put a rating on. Like I put this in my comments. Someone's like, "Oh, coward for not rating." I'm like, if I had to put a rating on it, probably like a 3. I don't know. Like I think it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, but like I'll never want to rewatch it. So like, what is that? I don't know. Like it's hard to. I just didn't put a rating because I'm like, whatever. Very impressive, crazy thing I just watched, but like not something I'd really like. I'm gonna rewatch. I don't know. It's weird, but and then yesterday watched The First Omen, watched Malignant, and watched Eyes Wide Shut. Haven't posted my Eyes Wide Shut review yet for no other reason than I finished that movie right when like the whole Donald Trump thing happened, and I was like, I was just locked in on just scrolling news and tweets, and that just like took up the rest of my night pretty much. But
what did you think of it?
First, both of them. Well, we'll see where they rank in my top 10 of the decade. But I loved The First Omen.
Oh no, I meant Eyes Wide Shut. Sorry.
Eyes Wide Shut. Well, if you're a patron, you'll see our full review. But and I liked it more than George, I guess, because his review is public now. But definitely not my favorite Kubrick. But that's like not saying much because it's like
it's not my favorite either.
Phenomenal films all together. But yeah, I'll save my rating for the actual review for patrons on Friday. But
Can you text me?
Really liked it. Yeah, I'll text you. But
okay.
It's just one of those movies, like, there's those movies that everyone's hyped up for so long, and I feel like I've just heard so much that it's like it didn't quite live up to like the hype, but it's one I think like pretty much every Kubrick film is gonna do better with rewatches and time because there's just so much to appreciate and dissect. But yeah, First Omen really loved. Malignant didn't love as much, unfortunately, George. I'm sorry, but you kind of went MIA a bit yesterday, so I was happy. I didn't get chastised.
I saw your text about like us not lining up on horror as much as you thought we did.
True though, like when you look at a lot of the horror movies, like a lot, we are pretty opposite, me and you.
Yeah, I mean,
are you? I thought you were the same. No, you're not.
No, we're pretty opposite.
Yeah,
because The Vision is your favorite. Shyamalan's probably my least favorite. You hate Immaculate. I really like Immaculate. Malignant, we're opposite on.
Longlegs.
First Omen, like I thought was like one of the best I've ever seen. You're kind of more like really good, but nothing crazy. Old, I really love.
I mean, I think even like the two of us aside, we had that conversation a week or two on the pod where we were talking about, or on our Q&A where we were talking about like who aligns with who the most. I think like all things like excluded, and we're just talking about horror. I don't think either of us like are very much aligned. Like I think Seth and I overlap here and there, but like
we're either right next to each other or completely far apart.
Yeah, horror is where the four of us separate astronomically, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, me and Cam are probably the most similar on the pod, I would say. Me and Cam are right, neck and neck. We love that shit.
Sure.
But yeah, no, yeah, I think that horror in general, I feel like a lot of the time, even when we all watch it, like perfect example is like Immaculate. I'm like down the middle. George hated it. Tyler really liked it. That seems to happen a lot, you know what I mean? So it's kind of one of those things. Horror especially, I feel like.
I know Cam's not here, but all-time Cam, like classic Cam moment. Yesterday was saying like he's like Malignant and shit. I hate that movie. And I looked at his rating, it's like a 2.5. That's just so classic Cam to always be like worst movie ever, and you look at his rating, it's like a 3, and it's like
the best moment of that when we were on the. I don't know if you were there, George. We did a podcast with Soups. It was like the first one we had on. It was like Blue Beetle, I think it was. I don't know if you were there. And we drafted my best superheroes. And I drafted like Superman, the original. And Cam was like, ugh. I was like, average film. And I was like, Cam, you give it an 84 out of 100. What are we doing right now? God, I love Cam for those moments. It's great. What a guy.
Anything that's not a 90 or out of 100 or higher, he thinks is the worst movie he's ever seen. What have you been watching, George?
Yeah, I've been first off, Carlos takes the first set 6-2. But I have been watching what did we say? The 7th was when we talked last. So since then, Real Bros movie, which we'll talk about in a sec. Rewatched Jaws. It was, I don't know, like everyone was watching it after the 4th of July, and Victoria and I were just kind of in the mood. Longlegs twice. The first time for Longlegs, experienced my first press screener. Terrible. We rewatched Twister.
You don't want to elaborate?
Oh, we can elaborate.
Yeah. I am surprised that annoyed you so much, because when I went to like BFI, there was a few people why they weren't loud. There's
a big difference between a film festival and a press screening.
No, I've been to a press screening where they were all like, it wasn't loud when I went though.
The first like alarming thing about a press screening is the screen, the actual I don't even want to call it a movie theater screen because it was no bigger than my television.
No, it's like a massive, like long, and it's like small. I remember going to one.
Yeah, that's not like a flex on how big my TV is. That is a derogatory comment on how small this press screening screen was. So like my very first thought was like, the people that come to these press screenings often, like, are you telling me they experienced Dune Part 2 on this screen for the first time and then wrote an article about it that you want me to genuinely listen to? Absolutely not. This press screening genuinely made me realize that critics are the most useless people in the world. I will never trust their opinions again. But let me continue. Almost everyone at this press screening had a notebook out, which fine. Honestly, my tweet, I should have elaborated. I don't mind if like one person here and there has a notebook. I don't mind if you're at home with a notebook. Every single person
from at home with a notebook.
Every single person at this press screening had a notebook, and I could only see the people in front of me. So I'm not judging the whole theater, but I'm only judging the people in front of me and the people directly to my right and left. They looked at their notebook for about 65 to 70% of the film. They were looking at their notebook, scribbling bullshit, which is like, this is no way to interact and engage with a film when you are only looking at the actual film for 40% of the time. That's absolutely horrendous. I was dumbfounded by how much these people were just looking down at their fucking notebooks, writing shit. And then, what was my third point? Oh, back to the notebooks. One notebook is fine. Doesn't make a lot of noise. You got 30 to 40 people in a room scratching away to paper with a pen. Oh, it's insane. It's insane. This was an insane way to experience a film. And these are the people that like write these long-winded articles that I'm supposed to read. Like, this is such a shitty way to like engage and experience film. And I could not believe it. I genuinely could not believe the way these critics watched this movie. And it was like 3 p.m. One guy goes, this is my third screening of, and I think I texted you guys this part. This is my third screening. The guy goes, this is my third screening of the day. I'm not talking to him. I'm just overhearing his conversation. So my first thought was, what the fuck else is even out? Like, what are you going to screenings for? Like, there's nothing else out right now except
Did you meet Tyler last year? This guy was doing like quadruple features.
Okay,
He
but
was
like
on it.
Tyler is, no offense, Tyler. Tyler's not a critic writing for a massive publication,
Yeah,
writing
true.
novels. Like these people, I did one day last year at the film festival where I watched 3 movies in a day.
I hated it too much.
It was terrible. By the
Yeah,
time the
I can't
third
do it.
movie rolled around, I was just so emotionally, mentally, physically drained. I was like, I know the way I'm going to experience this film is not going to be the way this experience should be like actually like experienced or whatever.
When you're on like the third
like,
film a day, like
yeah,
Jesus
so the
Christ.
entire experience, the only thing I'm thinking is like I'm never taking a critic seriously ever again. If I ever want to like read about a film, I'm going to Letterboxd and going to like general audience members who write about. I'm going to you guys. I'm going to you guys. Because that
I'm gonna
was
start bringing a notebook to lose my cred with you. You can't go to me anymore either. You have to find someone else.
that's just such an insane way to experience film. I genuinely was dumbfounded. I could not believe I was watching these like professional critics look down at their notebooks for 60% of the movie.
Yeah,
it's,
that is crazy to be like locked in your notebook. Like
it's
like,
pretty
just be
common,
like,
Way
honestly.
to experience film. I genuinely
pretty
could not
common.
believe what was going on.
It's. I mean, to be fair, in fairness to maybe a few of them, it could have maybe been the second screening of it.
That was,
potentially.
you're absolutely right. That is something I trust me. I went on this rant with Victoria, so trust me, I know. And the first thing I said was, okay, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. Maybe this was their second viewing of the movie, and their first viewing, they watched it, and now their second viewing, they want to just take notes. But like, what are the odds all 40 people in that room were in the same boat? Like, dude, I was genuinely dumbfounded by these people just staring down at their notebooks for an hour and 40 minutes straight. Or that's a lie, for an hour of the hour and 40-minute movie. That is no way to engage in film. And then again, dude, the screen size is insane. Like, did these people watch Furiosa on a screen no bigger than my fucking Sony television? There's no way. I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe they watched Furiosa, Dune, even fucking Challengers on a screen that stupid small, and then took to their publication and wrote this long-winded article on why the image doesn't look like. I could not believe that experience. I tweeted about it. That's my first and last press screener, which also it was weird that I got invited to begin with. I'm not a critic. I'm not in the press. I'm just a jerk off who posts on TikTok. So 1, hopefully I never get invited again. 2, if I do, I'm not going. Like, I'm thinking like, imagine if I got invited to a Dune 2 press screener and I walked in and that was the size of the screen. I would have walked out. I would have left. I would have left. Like, I would have never wanted to experience Dune Part 2 on a screen, on an 88-inch screen or 82-inch screen first without seeing it in IMAX. Anyway, I watched Signs.
Shout! Oh yeah, that's your best take, by the way. I've got to tell you that. That really made me happy when I woke up to that. That was good.
Yeah, that was a weird night. What did I do that night? Oh, that was the second time I saw Longlegs. A much better experience my second time around, by the way. You know, full theater. It was good to see the theaters packed for some good indie horror. But yeah, I watched Longlegs again, and then I went home and watched Signs. I don't even know why I watched Signs. Like, it wasn't. I knew I wanted to rewatch some M. Night before Trap, and I'm still going to, but like the ones at the top of my list are probably Old and The Village and The Sixth Sense. Like, Signs was never there for some reason. But I think I opened like the HBO Max homepage and Signs was just there. So I was like, okay, let's just watch Signs. For the better. Ended up really, obviously, 5-star movie. I ended up really enjoying it. It really hit me emotionally. But yeah, then a couple of horror movies.
Do you understand now, George? Well, that's by far my favorite M. Night. Do you get it?
I mean, yeah, it's by far my favorite now. But that's not really saying much when you have a filmography like his.
What did you have Signs as before?
I had Signs at a 3.5. I never disliked Signs. Yeah, Signs was always like my 1, 2.
It makes me
3
cry. It's so beautiful.
What, Signs?
Really,
yeah,
it really makes me cry.
Definitely hit me emotionally. Yeah, that was a weird night. That night got weird. First Omen, Titane, which we'll talk about, and then
George, I've never
we'll talk.
More.
Don't worry about it. We'll talk about Titane shortly. But let's get into the bulk of our episode. Damn, Carlos up a break in the second. Damn, Novak really is washed. We'll start with the real bros of Simi Valley because I'm sure this will be like a quick 10-minute, not even review. But we kind of touched on it when Tyler was going through, what has he been watching? It's dumb, it's stupid, but it's fucking hilarious. It's kind of like a Dumb and Stupid where it's like Jimmy Tatro, Cody Ko, whoever writes these like jokes, whoever writes these bits and these skits, clearly just genuinely cares about like what they're writing about, genuinely cares about like, I don't know. This movie could have very easily just been like a stupid, like dumb, like, let's just get my boys together and make some bullshit, which it's just pretty much what the movie is, but it could have come across so much more like ridiculous and unnecessary. But I don't know. It's funny. I had a fucking hilarious time. Jathu, hysterical name. Like this dude rolls down his window, and Jimmy Tatro's delivery of Jathu actually I had to pause the movie because of how hard I was laughing. The window rolls down. This guy goes, Jathu, and I was like, that's not his name. Like, there's no. I would love to watch Jimmy Tatro and Cody Ko writing this movie and being like, dude, what should we name this guy? And just Jimmy Tatro, no hesitation, Jathu.
Yeah, it's basically if you like the YouTube series, watch the movie because it's the same thing. It's just an hour and a half longer. Basically, the premise is they have their 10-year high school reunion coming up. So then Xander and his boys are trying to make themselves seem as sick as possible and cool as possible, so they can go back to their high school reunion and flex on everyone. And like there's like Xander takes a lot of pride in his truck, and there's like a best truck award. So he's like really self-conscious about other dudes from his high school's trucks. And they're basically all just trying to make their lives seem way more sick than they actually are to go back and just look awesome at high school. But just a hilarious movie. Like so many, like it's one of those where like I don't have the quotes or one-liners stuck in my head, but it's like if I rewatch it, I know there's probably 24 things that I could just start saying throughout my everyday life because it's just such a hilarious phrase. And Jathu is just what a name. Dude,
what does Johnny say at one point? He goes, dude, I'm really starting to Hurricane Harbor some resentful energies. That should have me rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're so stupid, but they're so fucking funny.
Mm-hmm. I had such a good time. It's also kind of like a weird one to rate. I gave it a 3.5, but I really, really liked it. And I wonder because like I'm looking at like Letterboxd, the crew on it, and like Gianna Butler got a casting credit for this, and it's her only film she's got a casting credit for. But like it's just all like the friends from YouTube. So like I feel like there was no casting to be done. So like I think it was just like you just get a free casting credit. Just like maybe it's one of their friends. So like you want to just say you casted this, even though it's our whole friend group from the show plus other YouTubers that we've met over the years. So I don't really know what casting had to go into this, but yeah, I had a great time with this. It's very fun. I'm probably going to rewatch it at some point. Like this could easily be like a comfort movie.
Yeah,
but like the top Letterboxd reviews are all so funny. Like,
oh, they're all just hilarious.
You're number one, by the way. You're the number one.
What was my review?
Just, I'm so fucking elated, bros. I straight up had a good time. but I love Chip Walker's review. Low key, when Squad hopped out the 6-door lifted, I was like, damn, that's gang.
Dude, it's so funny. My favorite, and they did this in the show too, like 1 or 2 times. It's like a Creed training montage, but it's Jimmy Tatro's Xander building a truck, literally just like banging a wrench on a door. It's like the funniest like building a truck montage ever.
Yeah, and the freaking what's his name? Wade still doesn't burn was hilarious.
Yeah, Wade still doesn't burn is like such a funny fucking like running gag of this whole joke.
Yeah, crazy, like the crazy timing. Like I was like, what at the end when there was like because there's like a guy named Hawk, and then the end there's like a Hawk 2, and I was like, damn, how the hell did they like what perfect timing? Because obviously this was probably filmed like 6 months ago, and then like the Hawk 2 girl comes out.
Oh
like,
yeah.
How do you even get that perfect timing coincidence that you have like a Hawk 2 person when Hawk 2 becomes a massive thing?
Fucking
good
Tony
shit.
Hawk pulling up as Xander's like 50-year-old son was I was geeking, dude. I was dying.
Yeah. Someone also noticed the Noah Cohen and his Letterboxd review. Like Tastro's delivery of Jathu needs to be studied. Academy of Motion Pictures, come get your boy.
The funniest line delivered. Like it's one
Jathu?
word, and not even like his delivery of it. Just like the way his like eyes widened, and he was like, Jatthew? Absolutely hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. I like jokingly gave it a 5-star. I took away my rating. I don't know. It's not something I want to put a rating on, but like unironically, it'd be in my top 10 of the year right now. With
it's so hard. And like today's the day where I'm just like so mentally low energy and just want to like sleep all day. Where it's like, well, I'm probably not going to sleep, but I just want to do stuff like very low taxing on the brain. So I'm probably just going to rewatch this while I'm like doing shit around the house or something. Just because it's a movie that I already know I'm going to rewatch because it's just such a fun time.
It's so easy to throw on in the background, literally just to listen to.
This
would work well as a podcast.
Dude, if I just listened to this as a podcast while going on like a walk today, I would look like an insane person. Like, laughing uncontrollably while walking down the street.
I'd be laughing to myself, just saying like lines here and there, like walking. Dude, I'm so fucking elated right now. But all right, that's it. We're not going to go into spoilers on the Real Bros of Simi Valley. Shout out my girl Zoe Deutsch. Absolutely love her. I don't know if they're married or not, honestly. You mentioned this earlier.
I think they're like what a lot of Hollywood couples are, where they're just like life partners or whatever. But who knows? Maybe they'll get married one day. But shout
out them. Shout out Cody Co. Did you ever watch the Cody Co has a podcast, and like a year or two ago, Jimmy Tatro came on as Xander. And he was there for like I'll send you the link. It's so fun. It's literally 5 minutes. It's so fucking funny. But yeah, that's Real Bros. We're not going into spoilers on the Real Bros of Simi Valley, the movie, but let's move on to we'll call it like just the whole horror segment of the episode. That's what the bulk of it is. We'll talk about Longlegs for the next like 40-ish minutes, I would assume, and then we're gonna run through our top 10 horror movies of the decade. And we do have some disclaimers before that, but let's do Longlegs first. Tyler, we'll start with you. You were the longest on Longlegs. I believe you gave it or we'll save the rating. What did I just say?
What does that even mean?
What did I say?
I was the longest on Longlegs.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dude, I'm so locked into tennis and the pod right now. I'm so lost. I'm sorry. You were the lowest is what I meant to say.
Tyler's face after you said that was so funny.
I was so confused. It sounded like something I would say with all like the ins and outs I weave into like names.
I don't
like
know.
longest.
Listen, I had a long night. I drank a lot last night and then came home and watched a 3-hour Kubrick movie. I didn't get to bed till 4 a.m.
That's why when I texted this morning, like when I texted at like 5:30, I was like, "You guys good for the?" I was like, "Damn, George is up." I was kind of worried.
I set 4 alarms this morning because I was like, "Dude, if I set 1 alarm, I will go back to bed." And which was a good thing I set 4 alarms because I did not get up until my 4th alarm. Whenever I texted you guys first this morning, that is when I woke up. What it was like 8:50, and we recorded at 9. But okay, Tyler was the lowest on Longlegs, so we will begin.
Was brilliant.
We'll start with just spoiler-free overall thoughts.
Yeah, the very quick 1-sentence synopsis of Longlegs is just: in pursuit of a serial killer, an FBI agent uncovers a series of occult clues that she must solve to end his terrifying killing spree. And that FBI agent is Agent Lee Harker, played by Micah Monroe. And then Longlegs is played by Nicolas Cage, directed by Osgood Perkins. His like 4th film. He's done Gretel and Hansel. He's done The Black Coat's Daughter. Maybe got a couple others in there, but he's also an actor. He was in Twisters. He was in Nope, or Twister. He was in Nope. And he's obviously son of Anthony Perkins, who is I'm obviously a big fan of with the whole Psycho universe, who was the stars Norman Bates and also directed Psycho 4. But and then beyond that, Blair Underwood's in this, Alicia Witt, some other supporting actors, but those are kind of like the main crew.
Sorry, do you know what I learned? Blair Underwood is the mom, right?
No, Blair Underwood's
the detective.
Police
chief. Which one's the mom?
Alicia Witt.
She's the one in Twin Peaks as well, and in Dune.
She played Aaliyah in the original Dune. I saw a tweet about that like yesterday, which I thought was funny.
I forgot because I did that age, and I saw the same tweet.
Tyler, continue. Sorry.
I'm the lowest on it. It's so I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I saw it Friday morning, and my theater was the opposite of everyone that was tweeting, where they were like saying like, "Oh, my theater's packed." My theater had like 8 people in it. And we'll talk about it in spoilers, but there's a moment where then 3 of those people left during the movie, which kind of surprised me. It's not like a movie, like I didn't like it as much as most people, but it's not a movie I would ever like walk out of. And it's just kind of interesting because it's like, what were you expecting from the movie if like it made you walk out from where it went. Whereas like I can get it, like if some of the marketing might have made you think like it would scare you more than it actually did, but like in terms of like what the movie actually ends up being, it's not like it's anything so like there's some twists and turns in here and it takes some directions I didn't expect, but it's nothing like so far off the wall and crazy where I would like walk out of the movie if I like knew what the movie was and like bought a ticket to. So I was a little surprised when they walked out. I was like, really? Like interesting. But yeah, a lot of the movie is like edge of your seat type suspense. And the scares are there. There's a couple jump scares that got me. One huge jump scare that got me. We'll talk about the jump scares and spoilers, but one of them is right at the beginning of the movie when like the title card drops. But the other jump scare later was the only one that like got me. But beyond that, like it never got like under my skin. Like a lot of other people were saying it was like a lot of people were saying this is like a movie that just like crawled inside them and stuck with them. And they're going to never forget about it for a long time. And for me, it just like didn't ever get there. Like there was moments where I was like, holy shit. Like, cause there's a lot of sequences. And again, we'll talk about them in spoilers where you're just like on the edge of your seat and it's like, it builds up for so long and builds and builds and builds and builds. And I'm like, it just didn't really like get there for me. I was like, it had me like a little, intense, but I was just kind of surprised that it just didn't grip me the way I was expecting it to. But beyond that, I think Micah Monroe is great. I think the first 15 minutes of this movie for me are what like really sold it as like the best parts of the movie. Like it starts off just with an absolute just bang and just intense moments galore in the first 15 minutes. And then it becomes really, meditative, drawn out, procedural of just, Micah Monroe trying to solve this serial killer Longlegs and all these killings that are happening, trying to prevent the final killings from happening and putting together the clues. Obviously, you can make a lot of people have made the ties into other serial killer movies, but yeah, like, I think a lot of people say Silence of the Lambs, but I'd say most similar has to be like Zodiac, simply because there's like, you get these letters that are, mysterious, cryptic, clues that you don't really know what it means and trying to uncover what they all mean and what the connections are and get through these ciphers. Nick Cage, I thought was really fun and silly as Longlegs for what he was. Like for what he was supposed to do, I thought he did a great job and I had a blast with his performance. That being said, I think the movie would have been scarier without him because I just saw Nick Cage the whole time. I was never that scared because I was like, oh, that's just like Nick Cage. Whereas if it was like some unknown person, I'd be like, this is like a terrifying, sinister person. I have no clue what they're going to do next or what they're up to, which is what I did get from Nick Cage in the beginning of this movie. But then it just became very Nick Cagey, which, yeah, it just wasn't my favorite decision for the movie, I guess, even though I really love Nick Cage. So it's like weird because I didn't want to like just talk down his performance because I really love Nick Cage and love him when he is full max Cage mode. But it just didn't work for me in this movie. And it just didn't. And I think it just made it a lot less intense and scary than it otherwise would have been, even though it was very silly and fun. But yeah, Micah Monroe, I thought was great. I think she's just so brilliant at using facial expressions alone and just her eyes, and just she's so good at conveying so much emotion without even saying a single word. She just has that lockdown. Obviously, this is like her 10th horror movie at this point that she's been in. Like she's her 10th horror movie, she's like leading pretty much because It Follows, Watcher. She kind of just got it down at this point, and she's great in this again. Blair Underwood's awesome. There's one other detective that's in this movie, Michelle Choi Lee, I believe. I think she was like dreadfully bad. Every line delivery she gave, I was like, this is just rough writing right now, because I don't know, some unbalanced performances. But then the final act, kind of goes a certain direction and wasn't my favorite. But it's not like I dislike it because it's like it wasn't really exactly what I was expecting, but I'm not going to like knock it down because it wasn't what I was expecting. It's more like I felt like this movie, first off, wasn't as scary as I was expecting, but that's fine if it's still like a great procedural psychological thriller that has like twists and turns and clues and makes me unsure of where it's going to go. But this movie, I felt like the exposition just spoon feeds you where it's going to go. And it's just like by the time we were like halfway through the movie, I'm like, okay, this is where it's going to be going. And I feel like a lot of foreshadowing is really ham-handed, just kind of handed you this movie on a silver platter, which I wish it was a little more convoluted than it ended up being. But I still like the movie. It's a 3 out of 5 for me. Had a fine time with it. I told myself, I was like, if I have trouble sleeping tonight or if I ever dream of Longlegs once, then I'll bump it up. But it didn't happen. But that was just like a funny thing I did on the side. I was like, I don't know, maybe because so many people were tweeting stuff like saying like, yeah, I didn't think it was that scary. But then like a day later, I'm like, holy shit, I can't stop thinking about it. So I was like, okay, if that does like happen to me, then I'll like reassess. But it just didn't. And like, I'm not even trying to say that as like ooh, it didn't scare me, because I think that's just like kind of on you if you're going to go into this movie thinking it's like the scariest movie ever. And a lot of people, like the marketing campaign, like I don't even remember even saying it that much. Like obviously the heart rate one was like the first time I feel like they outright tried to be like, this is a terrifying movie. But I feel like most of that came from the early reviews, unless I'm like missing.
It was more the reactions.
Yeah, because like everyone's talking about like the marketing campaign, but I was like, I don't really remember like Neon blasting a commercial saying like, this will terrify you forever. Like I actually really like their marketing campaign.
They did one, I think, that was saying that, but it was mostly, I think, the
I think most of it, was the early reviews. But I really like their marketing campaign. Like the trailer's not showing much at all, because once you see this movie, like not much of it at all is given away in the trailers, and then the posters I really like all in all, like I'm rooting for this movie because I really love Anthony Perkins, and then therefore I'm rooting for like Osgood Perkins, and there's a lot of interesting times about his life and his father that kind of influenced what the decisions were for writing this movie. So I'm like rooting for this movie because I think Neon's marketing campaign was really strong, and I hope it does very well. And it already is doing super well at the box office. Whereas like a movie like Cuckoo, which is like a trailer that plays before this, I've seen a lot of people have seen it be like, holy shit, this trailer shows way too much. Longlegs, I think, showed barely anything at all, which is great. Love the trailers. So rooting for this movie to do well. I have no ill will towards it. Just wasn't anywhere near my favorite of the year. So 3 out of 5 for me.
Seth, we'll pivot over to you for your spoiler-free thoughts.
Yeah, so I saw this. When did I see this? On Friday. I mean, obviously, I really liked it. I think, I think the issue with like kind of any marketing campaign is I think that, I mean, every film is going to have a flurry of social media campaign. I think they did it really well, but I think that the early reactions and maybe how they marketed some of it kind of gave people the wrong impression as, in my opinion, and it is, so it's not my opinion, this is just fact. This is a police procedural. It's a detective thriller. Many have drawn comparisons to the likes of like Seven, Zodiac, The Silence of the Lambs. Another one that I said in my review, which is not an original thought. Many people said this, but it gave me very similar feelings and vibes to Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure, and actually just all of Kiyoshi Kurosawa's filmography in general, in kind of the way that the shots were, the kind of the framing, especially in the close quarter sequences, like in the interview sequence. The way it kind of manages to sort of, you kind of warm to it throughout, and it, in my opinion, it kind of picks you apart. Did it scare me? No, but it made me feel uncomfortable, which I really liked. We've said this before, it's like an ongoing joke. I think one of the first videos we posted on ReelTok was like Cam saying like, when Joe moves to 14, watches the film, makes him really uncomfortable, and that was like the thing, which is like, yeah, exactly, that's what we like. But yeah, it made me uncomfortable. I think not as with like Cure. I think it lacks the same amount of subtlety and nuance. I think what Cure, just an example, does so well, even though it is kind of this procedural again, looking at evil and kind of the inflictions from it, it doesn't rely on its exposition. And I think that they would have struggled to not do that. I don't really knock them down for that, but I also think it is kind of a negative at the same time, because Cure allows you to give things your own way, but whereas Longlegs kind of just feeds you little notes here and there about the history of certain things, and maybe doesn't leave it too much up to you. But then again, I think there's interpretations you can look at throughout. But yeah, it does rely on its exposition. I think that inevitably a lot of people will find the lack of development with Michael Monroe and Nicolas Cage's character to be not as much as they would have liked. To be honest, for me, that didn't really bother me. I actually liked a lot of the choices with this in terms of how they just kind of portrayed them. Nicolas Cage has been a big one of conversation. I've seen a lot of people say that they would have preferred it not to be him, or to be him in a different light, so it kind of could subvert expectations. Because let's be honest, Nick Cage is just Nick Cage in this. And I get that, and I actually kind of agree with the sentiment that it would have been interesting if they would have subverted expectations. But at the same time, I will never turn down Nick Cage at his most ridiculous, and I think that's what this was, and I just really enjoy that. And I also think that I like the kind of odd, like the sort of deadpan, absurd humor it has as well. Obviously, we'll go into some scenes like the singing scenes, stuff like that. It's just fucking crazy, but I quite like that, and I think there was kind of an ongoing flow of it as well. They kind of spoke a little bit like a kind of like, not melodrama per se, but I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It was quite comedic in some of the elements that I didn't expect to go in, and I kind of welcomed those moments as well. It is a lingerer. I think it's something that's going to be lingering on my mind, not to quite the same extent as people have been saying online, like it's going to chew at me and whatever. And but I thought it was a good film. But this is kind of the film that's built for me. I think this is what I usually like. Do I think it could have been marketed better to give people a better impression? Sure. But also, do I think that the reason they're making so much money is because that's succeeding? So absolutely. I think there's a reason it's doing so well. And it's like, what, the biggest neon opening ever, or like by a good margin as well, I believe, which is great. And I think, like you guys said, well, Tyler, you said the opposite when we were talking about this in group chat. My screening was full and all of them were full. And obviously, this is just like an independent cinema I go to as well. It's mostly like middle-aged people who are into film and they feel like film students, but it's quite like a good crowd. You don't get like talking and stuff, which is always nice. That's why I used to go there. And it was packed. Every screen I went to, parts of mine was just full completely. Like, even had to book in advance a week or two, whatever, which is nice to see, especially for like an indie horror. Really, really nice to see. So that was great. Yeah, I think it has the menacing atmosphere. It worked for me. I think it was really, really good. I give it a 4 out of 5. Also, we'll go into a bit more in terms of the actual scenes and the spoilers and stuff like that. Yeah, I really liked it. I liked it. Probably, to be honest, I liked it just as much as I was expecting it to, on kind of initial reaction anyway.
Seth, I think you're just too easily impressed.
True. True. I am actually easily impressed. Yeah.
I don't actually believe that. That's an inside joke from film Twitter. It's not.
Yeah, you won't get it if you don't get it. You don't get it.
I don't know. Your reaction is too calm. I don't want people to think like I'm actually like saying like trying to leave me and you.
This is just like a film. Like, I think it's like probably same as George. I think this is a film that just inevitably works for me, and I imagine it'll be same as George as well. Like, kind of this atmosphere and the way it constructs it throughout. Could have been some better parts here and there, but overall, I had a really good time with it. Definitely.
Yeah, so it certainly worked for me both times around, regardless of my poor theater experience the first time around. But the second time around just kind of solidified this as just being one of my favorite horror films of the decade. I love this. I love, like you said, Seth, just horror movies that can just get under your skin, make you feel uncomfortable. Obviously, I like traditional fright, like the Evil Deads and the Conjurings and the Insidiouses, but a movie like Longlegs is something that's going to stick with me a lot longer than something like Evil Dead Rise, or even just last year, 2 years ago, Talk to Me. The second time I watched this movie, Thursday night, Victoria was home, so she wasn't in the apartment with me. I didn't sleep at all. I was frightened, like, genuinely. And I know Nicolas Cage is like the hot topic of conversation, but I think he puts on a silly, kooky performance, but it's enough to like just really like make me feel weird and like get under my skin. Like, I kept like sitting in bed Thursday night just thinking I was going to hear his little dumb laugh from like my living room or my kitchen. And every time I looked like to my right, like the way my bed and my front door are situated, like where my bed is in my room, you can look directly to my front door of the apartment. And Victoria's got like parkas and jackets hanging up. So every time I looked to my right, I just saw like a human looking figure. And I was like, dude, I'm so fucking scared right now.
Victoria should like dress as him one night and just get you. That'd be so funny.
That would be fun. But,
and you probably have people live under you still, Mr.
And I do exactly. So I do. The annoying thing about my apartment is my kitchen and my bathroom have like these vents, and I can so easily hear the people above me. So like all night I was hearing like little whispers, and I was like, dude, this is not cool. This is not fun at all. Like, what a shitty day for Victoria to pick to like go home and leave me by myself. But yeah, again, it goes back to Nicolas Cage. I know a lot of people don't love his performance. I don't love the performance, but again, it was enough to like really just make me feel itchy and make me like feel like I had this like itch on my back that I could not get to and scratch. Like, it was just so uncomfortable. Like the scene where he's driving and he just starts screaming, "Mommy, Daddy," or whatever the fuck he says. Like, I thought that was so fucking frightening. Like, it's funny, yes, but it's like it was enough to get under my skin. But beyond that, I love this, like, and it's like I'm beating the dead horse here, but like this Zodiac, Silence of the Lambs, Cure, Insomnia type film where you're on this journey with this detective, and like what you're experiencing is like essentially what in this case, Lee Harker is experiencing. Like, this movie's not giving you like anything to work with, really. You're left to unpack this like mystery as Lee unpacks it. So it's just like this really like unpredictable, anxious, paranoid experience that I really had a good time with both times around. And same case for my theater, absolutely packed. So great to see, theaters busting out for small indie horror movies. But you know what I'm a little surprised about, and I'd love to hear your guys' take with all this marketing that comes out. Obviously, this movie had just like one of the better marketing campaigns, not even within horror, just within film ever, I would say. I'm surprised before the movie was watched by everyone, no one said, like, do we think this is too much? Like, do we think people are going to go in with too high expectations? It wasn't
I
until
did see
after
some people say that, to be fair, beforehand. I
I
did
didn't
see
see
some people say
anyone.
that.
Okay, well, yeah, then if people said it, they said it. But like, I didn't see anyone like prior to watching the movie being like, maybe this is too much. Maybe they're like elevating our expectations too high. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like yeah, go.
I was just say I think that like a reason you probably not see that. I only saw it a few times. I didn't see it most of the time, to be honest. I think a reason is that we're so devoid of those kind of campaigns now. Like it was even something as simple as like with Planet of the Apes when they got them to walk along like the San Francisco bridge, and like in New York and whatever. Like it's such a small thing, but because we don't get those kind of campaigns like a Cloverfield or a Ring or a Blair Witch, those kind of campaigns in the same vein where they're doing something practical, people are just so excited by it, something cool. And I think that was the same, even though it wasn't quite to the same extent. I think so they're doing like the letterbox reviews, it's just kind of cool, the comments. Fucking creepy shit, by the way. When I got that, I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I thought it was a great campaign.
Yeah, the little like trailers, and I like, and it's like people will say, I saw people say, it's gimmicky and whatever, and it's like, of course it's fucking gimmicky. That's the fun, it's like we don't get stuff like this anymore. And it was like the especially the one that you mentioned about Michael Monroe's heartbeat. The first time she's Nick Cage or whatever. That's cool. Like it's a fucking cool way, and they're succeeding because the film's making fucking money whether you like it or not, and that's why more, especially independent films, should try and run things like this because it will really help to push a film, especially in horror. So I think complaining about it's just kind of, fucking weird. I'll be honest. It's like, I think it's just, why would you not want a film like this to make money, like more money? Why would you not want more like projects that are independent of sorts and they're able to push themselves a little bit more and get more with the budgets and actually try and make something that's not what people complain about constantly, Marvel films and whatever. It's cool. It's fun. It's different. It's original. It's gimmicky, sure, but that's the fucking point, I don't know,
Yeah, and even on like the marketing, like it was a lot of marketing for sure, and I enjoyed it. But what I loved about the marketing is that like it was such a subversion of expectation. I went into this film thinking this was going to be something other than, obviously the film takes a complete like left turn in the third act, and do we want to put a spoiler tag on?
Yeah,
we can put the spoiler tag on. So spoilers for Longlegs going forward. If you haven't watched Longlegs, there are timestamps below, so check those out and just move forward if you haven't seen the movie. But yeah, the film in the third act takes such like a massive like pivot. Like Nicolas Cage, Longlegs dies before chapter 2 even finishes. So in that moment, I was like, wow, that's like such a weird, like that's such an interesting subversion of expectations. But beyond that, I also went into this movie not expecting it to be this like satanic ritual, religious experience. I like the trailers truly just made it seem like this was going to be just another, detective serial killer vibe. So the marketing, I think, wow, Carlos took the second set 6-2. This is bad. 6-2, 6-2. But yeah, I went into this movie just expecting like not another serial killer film, but I didn't expect Oz Perkins to like kind of take the swings that he took in the third act. And I think his level of ambition is just a little too admirable for me to just completely overlook. I know it didn't land for a lot of people. I talked to Sydney like very briefly about it after I read her Letterboxd review. And I completely understand where she's coming from. In her Letterboxd review, she was basically like, when the movie has to go somewhere, Oz Perkins kind of takes this route that doesn't feel as fulfilling as you might expect, where I'm on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where once the third act comes and the movie has to go somewhere, I think the swings Oz Perkins takes are so much fun. It's just, he took this film in a direction I did not expect. It's obviously very sinister from start to finish, but that third act is really just something that's going to stick with me for a while. It's kind of like this really haunting, like, look at Satan, the whole Nick Cage's final line saying "Hail Satan," just beating the fuck out of his face, and then turning directly into chapter 3, where now we're like uncovering the pieces, like who has been the accomplice. I think that was a bit in your face, and I think that's the reason this movie is kind of held back from a 5 out of 5 for me, where it was like there are not enough characters in this movie to be like dude, who could is the accomplice a real person, or is it genuinely Nick Cage? Like maybe he's the embodiment of Satan that we've been looking for. But two, there's just not a lot of characters going on. So it's like, who's Satan? Who's the accomplice? Oh, it's probably the mom who's
it's
really
like the mom or the cops, because there's like no other characters.
Exactly. And the mom, the whole movie just like gave off like these very off-putting vibes. I actually would have preferred if it wasn't the mom, because that would have been a cool subversion of expectations, where it's like, okay, this mom is giving really creepy vibes. She also had an encounter with Longlegs the same day Lee Harker did as a child, but the mom was obviously a grown-ass woman, so maybe she experienced that day much differently than Lee. So you would expect her to be the accomplice. If Oz Perkins kind of like pivoted and was like, no, she's actually not the accomplice, I would have been like, okay, that's cool. Like, that's a cool subversion of expectations, where like it's so obvious that it's the mom. If you tell me it's one of the cops, or just like, I don't know, it turns into like this massive cult movie, I would have been like, damn, that's kind of interesting. But like, yeah, the mom, that's the biggest everyone keeps asking like, what holds this movie back from a 5 out of 5 for you? And it is the mom being the accomplice. I don't mind the way the film unfolds, like where she kind of like tells the story about how like Longlegs visited her as, you know, on Lee's 9th birthday, and you know, pleading for her daughter's life. She basically agrees to be the accomplice. I don't mind, like, I think that unfolds very well. I think that's a very interesting pivot, because again, it's just something I didn't expect. But yeah, I what do you guys want to do with spoil? Where do you guys want to talk about?
I think that it's kind of good that you didn't watch. You haven't watched his other films, have you? Or any of his other films? I think.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so I did actually expect kind of the satanic approach and kind of the way it goes in terms of kind of the code and whatever, because in his most recent film, The Black Coat's Daughter, it's kind of similar, not similar, but especially it's similar in terms of atmospherically. So I was expecting something like that going in, but also in the way it kind of approaches kind of isolation and Satanism, possession, whatever. So it's probably good that you actually didn't watch the movie before, because it's very similar atmospherically and not thematically as such, but in terms of the tone it takes. Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that, again, not everything's about, you know, guessing who it is, but it also would have helped a little bit if there was, you know, more options there, I guess, because it would have made it a little bit more exciting. I think that the final act is, I think that my favorite part of the film, which I didn't mention in my thoughts, is actually the opening. I think the opening is so cool. I think that is a way to really just get you in there. Like kind of that shot. Yeah, it doesn't reveal Cage's face. It just shows kind of the bottom half. Then you've got kind of him speaking, the kind of introduction. And I also, again, I don't think I even mentioned this in our review, but a lot of people take issue with this, and this happens in a lot of films. The aspect ratio changes. I like it. I think it's cool. I'm kind of a sucker for that. Cool. I really like it to show kind of the timeline and the periods, and also it gives it a different feel as well. But yeah, I really like the ending in general. I think my favorite part of the film was definitely the opening. So I think the opening is just fucking. It's just cool, you know. It's really cool.
Yeah, the opening is awesome, because that's where I love Nick Cage, because he's so not Nick Cage in that first scene, because he's talking creepy, and he's like, "Oh, my leg's really long," and then he like drops down, and then like you don't see his full face, but that's when it cuts to the title screen. That's like a jump scare moment where like got me a little bit. But the big one was when she saw the picture of him and her like stuff. And then that one's just like unavoidable, because they made the fucking noise so goddamn. Like she like picks up the picture. When she's in her house, like probably an hour in, and she's like looking through her chest, and she sees a picture Polaroid of Longlegs, and then just like a quick like montage flash of like
that was a cool one. That seemed quite like Lynchian.
I like the jump scares. Like
that was like Lynchian. It was weird. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought the jump scares were cool, and that one got me really good. But and then the aspect ratio change, especially like in the title card when it like just like was slowly going out while like the rock music was playing. I was like, hell yeah, I'm buckled in.
The title card was fucking cool, man. Yeah, that whole introduction to the sort of red title card as it like widened out. I think that was really cool. Like that was like, okay, this is fucking cool. I like things like that. And again, they can come across as gimmicky to some people, but I think I always think that a lot of films, and I noticed that, you know, the more films I've watched, the care. The amount of films for me that just get better as they progress, rather than really putting an emphasis on what you're going to expect and kind of getting you into that mood straight away, I think is few and far between. I think this does a good job of that, because even if you end up not liking it as such, you know what you're going to in for, and you're ready to kind of, you know, intake it straight away, and you're excited by it, because I think it opens up in a really creepy scenario. Whereas if you see most horrors, And I think, for example, George, that's what like Evil Dead Rise did really cool as well, having that kind of sequence at the start to really get you going. Obviously, have that famous title card, which is like the most used tweet ever at this point. But you know what I mean? I think it really works in his favor to have something at the start of the film, definitely.
And then immediately after the title card, you get jumped into Lee Harker and her partner going door to door trying to find this person of interest. And then you have a Lee Harker, Sixth Sense moment where she's like, that house right there is the house. And then he's like, okay, whatever you say. And then just gets shot right in the head and killed, which you're like, holy shit, this movie
and he's like,
is starting off insane. Yeah.
He's like, bang. Can I ask you some questions? As soon as he says something, straight away, that was like, Jesus. Because again, that's like in the first 10 minutes of the film, Yeah. And it really is like, what the fuck? I came out of fucking nowhere. Because, when I watched The Black Coast Door, for example, I was expecting more of it. And I think people obviously said this, like, it's quite gradual. Not as a slow burn as such, but it's quite gradual in the way that it kind of increased over time. So I wasn't really expecting something for a little bit. And when that happened, I was like, Jesus, that really took me off guard. And I think again, we have the scene that was in the trailer after that, don't we? Where she's kind of moving through the house with a gun in the air that kind of goes quiet and still for a second, really puts an emphasis on it in terms of the corridors and making it feel as claustrophobic and as small as possible. I think that's how you do those sequences. I think any of the moments where they were in buildings and kind of in these close proximity circumstances was really, really cool. Like, I really, really like those bits. And I think they were just framed really well. And I think it was clearly a lot of care being taken behind the camera, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, movie opens just with two really not powerful, just powerhouse scenes that really just lock you in. And then beyond that, what unfolds is like this really like religious experience, which I know, and I'm not like shitting on, I mean, I am shitting on Immaculate, but I know Tyler likes Immaculate, but I've obviously just been longing for just something with religion and horror to just scratch that itch that I've been so longing for. And Longlegs is okay. You tell me if this is a stupid comment, both of you, where this weird comparison that I want to make is Longlegs and Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, where Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse is kind of this like this tale on Poseidon, outing two men to this like to like take care of something, and Robert Eggers kind of translates this story of myth into this like really weird fucking movie. And now you have Longlegs, where we're talking about the Book of Revelation and the dragon. I don't know that whole bit that Lee Harker kind of goes about. The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast. And like in this story, the beast is the Antichrist, the embodiment of Satan, and that's obviously Longlegs. And then you have like his accomplice, which is the person who's going to spread the word. So like it's this really cool take on the Book of Revelation, which also in the movie, it's kind of like such a, I don't know what I want to say, but I loved the line where the annoying cop was basically like the Book of Revelations, and Lee Harker immediately was like Revelation. It's singular. I don't know why I love that. I think that was just such an interesting like line to throw in there, just showing like Lee Harker's understanding of religion. Because it also just touches on like her familial chaos and like what she grew up in. Her mom is immediately always asking like, are you doing your prayers? Are you doing this and that? Because her mom is obviously the pawn to spread the word of Satan. And then, we get flashes of snakes, which in the story, it basically, the story kind of touches on, the serpent being like that living embodiment of like this message being like passed from household to household. So this is like, this just scratched that like religion in horror itch that I've been so longing for. And I think it did it very well by kind of like giving us this story through the lens of a detective with very like Silence of the Lambs, Cure vibes, which obviously I love those two movies, primarily Cure, which I saw for the first time like 2-ish years ago, and I've just been infatuated with ever since. But yeah, it kind of just it scratched this itch that I think I've just been so longing for with horror and religion, and just giving me like our next great serial killer movie, which I think we've obviously just been deprived of over the last couple of years, unless off the top of my head I'm missing something that I'm not thinking of.
I think using just like, go on, Josh.
No, go. Sorry, I'm
trying. I was going just to go off that. I think horrors in general, and I think especially when you've got the procedural dramas like this, like like a Seven, like a Cure, using Satanism and mythology as like a template is always kind of good structure to have, because I think it opens up more. I think that some of kind of the commentary in this doesn't exactly land, because I think it's something very, very similar in that kind of, the trauma is, on the inside, the trauma in isolation. I think the trauma, obviously, what we see from growing up. But I do think that the kind of religious subtext always adds a little more. Like, it's something that really works well with horror, just because, thematically, I think it just works well. And I think it's something that's just always continued since, like Seven and Cure. But I definitely get what you mean in terms of comparisons with The Lighthouse. I hadn't thought about, to be honest, that's not even entered my mind, but it definitely makes sense. I think there's a lot of films that can be compared to this in terms of everything, in terms of the context of it in general. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't think the actual religious commentary in general was kind of the strongest part of it. But I am actually seeing it again in like 3 or 4 days, so I'll definitely, but yeah, no, I definitely get what you mean. I also think, by the way, just on this completely different note, what was his name? The guy, the other agent, the kind of chief or whatever.
I don't know. I know he's Blair Underwood, but I don't know.
I really liked him as well. I didn't mention that in my thing. I actually really liked him. He was one of my favorite parts of the film.
Yeah, he's good.
Him. I do like
detective, though.
Yeah, she wasn't great, I think, in some of the scenes. But again, I think that one of my favorite scenes in the film was actually what happens to her. When they actually go and visit the mom, when they kind of figure it all out and they go and question her. Michael Monroe's character goes inside the house, he's shouting for her mom, she goes upstairs, looks out the window, and then there's the mum kind of walking up behind the car, goes into the window, 2 shots straight away.
Yeah, that was a crazy moment.
Crazy. That was crazy. Yeah.
So the second time I watched the movie, I saw it with one of my good friends, and he the camera pans over to the detective in the car, and the mom is like in the corner, and he didn't see the mom at first. So I literally pointed to the screen. I was like, yo, over there. And he was like, oh shit, there she is. And then just the way she like slowly moves, pops that shotgun up, and you're like, oh my goodness. And then that's immediately where I was like, or even before that, you see Lee Harker moving through the house. And the poster for this movie is Lee Harker looking out a window with like her hand over her mouth. In the poster, she's obviously wearing the exact same fit in that scene. So I was like, oh my God, something insane's about to happen. And then obviously the mom just pops this woman in the face. Another thing I really liked about this movie, and Tyler, I don't know if you plan on rewatching it, but Seth, I'd like to hear your takes after you rewatch it. I think this movie was creepier on rewatch. And the reason why is because on first watch, Mr. Down the Stairs or Mr. Downstairs is mentioned very often. And obviously that's a complete metaphor on Satan just being below us. God is in the heavens above, Satan is in hell below. So the first time I was watching this movie, I was like, okay, that's a bit like, it was a little in your face. It's a little in your face, Mr. Downstairs, you're talking about hell and, below us. Second time you're watching the movie, you're like, oh my God, Longlegs is the man downstairs because he literally fucking lives downstairs. So the first scene where Lee Harker goes to see her mom, the only thing I'm thinking is, dude, he is literally right below you. Like legitimately directly below you. And she's even like, when she was making her mom lunch or dinner or whatever it was, she was kind of playing around with the door. She was about to grab the key. And I'm like, oh my God, this could have been it. This could have been it. This could have been like absolutely it. So it was like, just such a creepy like aura around Longlegs. And I said this in my Letterboxd review initially. Oz Perkins does such a good job at like creating this very like lingering horror where even when Longlegs is not on the screen, even when Longlegs is not even a part of the conversation going on, you just feel like he's somewhere. You feel like he's just like lurking in the background where like he'll just pop out of nowhere. And like this is obviously like, there are the 2 sequences, the biggest one being when Lee is just sitting at her desk and she sees something outside, and then she goes outside and she sees Longlegs inside. And then when she's in the library or the police station, she sees like the physical form of the devil like outside the window. But beyond that, like the scenes where Longlegs isn't there, you just feel like he's like lurking in the background. And you feel like even at the end of chapter 2 where he kills himself, you just never feel like he loses that upper hand, which is like such a cool thing in horror that I just absolutely love, where like you can make and again, this is like a me thing. I know a lot of people didn't find Nicolas Cage as effective as I did, but like when you can make your horror villain so effective that they feel like they're on screen, even when they're not on screen and not even part of the conversation, I think that's such like cool, like atmospheric, haunting, lingering, like paranoid horror that I absolutely love.
No, I agree. I think that because of the moments which we see of Nick Cage, especially in the early period, like the singing scenes, because there's the sound. In my Letterboxd review, I complimented the sound. I think that's probably one of the best things about the film. It's very searing. It's very long lasting sound. It's I think in those moments it kind of lasts with you because of just how ridiculous it was and how kind of over the top it was. And I think that actually worked in his favor, especially with Nick Cage. So I'm definitely on the side who really liked him. Here's a question. We've spoken about this before, and I think it depends on film to film. How do you feel? Well, how did you feel about this in terms of kind of showcasing the 3-act structure? Because again, we've spoken about it before, using the cards to say like Act 3, part 1, part 2, or 3. Did you like that in general, or?
I never mind a 3-act structure, but I think the reason this was broken up into 3 parts is to distinguish kind of between like every part you kind of unlock more information about the Antichrist, the beast,
the
false prophet being the mom, and then more about like just this word of God, which is the final act. So I don't mind the 3-act structure in the sense that it's kind of like it's 3 distinct acts about 3 distinct I was about to say POVs, 3 distinct like parts of this one chapter of the book of Revelation that this movie is touching on. I don't know if I love the 3-act structure where it's just like part 1 finishes and part 2 happens like in that scene.
That's what this is, though. Because Act 2 starts when she opens the letter that's placed on her desk, and then Act 1.
Exactly.
So I thought you were saying you don't like other movies. I was like, this movie does that, though.
I'm saying I do not like that.
So I was gonna say, there's no different than like a Moonlight or other movies. There's like Act 1, then Act 2 is like
it's completely separate.
Like most times it's 3 with title cards is like jumps to a different location or something. Whereas this is like the letter's placed on her desk, and then Act 2 starts as like picks up like as it's probably the same continuous shot that they just put the break in.
Which so, that's not what holds this movie back from a 5 out of 5 for me, because I understand the 3-act structure is to like differentiate between the 3 like points in the book of Revelation in this like paragraph chapter that Lee Harker goes on to read about the beast coming on the shore with the horns and the crowns. But like, yeah, in a sense of like, I don't know, if you're going to have a 3-act structure, even if you're going to distinguish it as well as Oz Perkins did between, the beast and the whatever, I need some sort of time. I didn't like that. I didn't like that we just it's like right there. Like Tyler said, like Act 1 ends with the letter being placed on her desk. Act 2 picks up probably not even 30 seconds later in real time when she's opening the letter.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's a really weird one.
Yeah, it's a small nitpick of mine, which does not affect my rating. Like in the moment, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like there's part 1, part 2, part 3, but like the movie doesn't like move through time the way I had expected it to do with like a 3-act structure outside of the flashback sequences that we got.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question. I don't know. I just kind of
go on. I think so. Lee Harker, obviously, like as a detective, she's like possessed by this spirit in some sort of way that kind of leads her to make these, clairvoyant decisions of like, oh, that's the house, and like, oh, this is where I need to go. She's kind of like she's kind of a system detective, to be honest. I don't think she has that many detective skills. I think she's she's kind of a fraud. She's a system detective.
Yeah, she is. Yeah,
she passes. She's like, how did you pass the test that many times? She didn't. She gets freaking possessed. She doesn't know shit.
She is a terrible detective. You'll see it throughout the film. She's a terrible and a great detective because let's be honest. If you have a sixth sense as a detective, you're probably quite good. Yeah,
it's like The Good Doctor or whatever. I don't know. I've never seen an episode of that show ever, but I think it's something like that. I don't know. Probably it's something like that. But also
secret Good Doctor fan.
So this movie is mid 1970s when it takes place. So the whole detective agency kind of sucks because Zodiac is late 60s, early 70s in San Francisco, which is right below Oregon where this takes place. So they already figured out how to crack ciphers. They know how to do it. They had a whole department.
Yeah.
But not until she comes in, she's like, this is the code. And they're like, how? We've had people looking at this forever. It's like you literally spun up a whole division of the FBI from Zodiac.
You have. It's not some local, like, small police like station.
Yeah. The bureau. What's going on here? Why is she... And it was like the most like, because like in Zodiac, he like changed the cipher every time, or she just like did the most like basic, like, little kid detective kit where it's like, oh, you just, this letter's that symbol, this letter. It's like, oh, that's what it is. But No, obviously that's not like a critique. It's just like a funny note. But I thought some
I
of the
mean, it's the
religious
point. It's not a
political
critique. It's the point of the film.
Right, yeah. I'm not saying, but I just want to make it clear. Like when I'm saying that, I'm not saying like this is why I lowered. But
it's just funny.
I think some of the religious and political imagery was a little on the nose too. Like you have the Bill Clinton images, obviously, in like the detective office, and then in one of the offices of the axe, or in one of the houses of the axe murder, you have a Ronald Reagan picture. So it's like very clear, like Democrat or conservative liberal lines there. And it's like they don't really comment on it much, but I'm just like, oh, it's like kind of very obvious what they're doing. Bill Clinton being in the detective's office, and then Ronald Reagan being in the murderer's house, and then like the whole like, and I'm sure they probably got it too. And I'm not saying this is like even falls in the same category critique, but like when he's like, oh, the X marks the spot and the X leads the way. I'm like, we all know these are crosses, right? Not X's. Like we all clearly see this like religious imagery, not like X's marking where you're supposed to go. And then I had one other thing I was going to say, but yeah, like obviously the third act big turn is that Longlegs is like a doll maker that makes these dolls that puts this like orb in their heads that can kind of possess a family to then kill their entire family.
We didn't even say that, did we? Yeah, or possess
right,
like the
yeah,
dad.
so I figured we should start getting into that. But yeah, I was like,
that's the start, isn't it? Because when the first case we see is like it's the dad who's killed like his wife and his daughter, and then obviously it always ends with obviously self-inflicted death, suicide in that rate. And I think that's kind of the whole point of it, is trying to discover why these people are killing themselves in terms of killing their families, then kill themselves. And it's like that's why they can't find it, because they're all self-inflicted. You know, there's nowhere to lead them to it. Go on, George.
Off of that, sorry, quickly. That had me so locked in. I don't know about you guys, but like before, obviously, like I said, the marketing of this movie had me believing this movie was kind of going to go one direction, and then ends up going down this like satanic route. But before we get to the third act, it took like time for me personally to realize like, okay, we're going down a level of like, we're going down to the Antichrist. That's where this is heading. But before that, like throughout Act 1, where like Lee Harker like was kind of like piecing together what's going on, she says to her boss, she was like, yeah, there's no like sign of forced entry, there's no entry of Longlegs even being in the house at all. The shotguns that were used were registered to the parents, the knives were from their houses, and it's always, the dad kills the family and kills himself. I was locked in. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Where is this like going? How is this possible? Like, what is Longlegs doing behind the scenes that is like making all of this possible? And that's like just such a level, like if it didn't go down the satanic route, I would have loved to see how this movie unfolded, but this movie did go down the satanic route. But still, I was so dialed into like this whole like detective serial killer aspect, because I was like, wow, this isn't just a serial killer that goes around killing people, leaving calling cards like, the Zodiac. This is like a killer that's like not present during the kills, which like was such an interesting way to like introduce Longlegs within the first like 15 minutes of this movie.
Have we mentioned the ending? I don't know if we have. The ending, the final bit.
Not really after that.
I just mentioned like what actually. No, I did not mention the ending.
Okay. Do you want to go over the ending or anything?
I'm trying to think if there's anything else leading up to it. It's like I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, so obviously wait, is that a bit before the ending? Yeah, it is. So we get the obviously scene with the mom, and then after that she knows that obviously that family is going to be in danger because it's what's his name? What's the character's name? I know it's
Blair Underwood, but the character name,
character name.
And Agent Carter.
Agent Carter, obviously she goes to theirs, and you should mention actually as well, that was a really weirdly deadpan funny scene as well. We didn't mention, where she first goes to their house and she just sat with the daughter, just like the most awkward scene ever.
That was so funny. That was so
funny. It was, wasn't it? Yeah.
The daughter was like, "Do you want to be an FBI agent?" She was like, "No, I wanted to be an actress." And the daughter was like, "I hear they mess kids up." And Micah Monroe's like, "Yeah." Like, that was so fucking funny.
But she's also like when she was talking about a birthday party, it's like immediately you're like, okay, so this is where we're going. She's the final victim.
She's like, I'll be there. That's all she says. And then she just goes. It's like the most weird thing ever. But yeah. And then obviously she goes to the house, knocks on the door, and immediately you can tell something's not right. Immediately she's knocking on the door and she's all in panic, whatever. And he's there with his wife straight away. And like, I can't remember what they say. And I was like, oh, you made it. Come in. You can tell from the get-go something's not okay. And then obviously when she walks in, immediately what she sees is on one sofa, mum's there. And then it's obviously a doll, which the daughter's next to. And then I think what happens, like they sit down, He like leads his wife out to the kitchen. That's where it starts kind of unfolding. That's where it's like, okay, we're going through this again. You hear her, him killing her and stuff like that. Don't ever miss anything else of that before that.
Feel like Mike and Monroe could have stepped in a little earlier, but
that's
I guess
what,
true. Yeah.
That's also what I thought. Like, if I were Mike and Monroe in that very situation and I knew what was going on, I'm killing everyone.
She has a gun.
I know. I'm not even. She like that. That's one part I will say. As much as I love this movie, the one part that genuinely annoys me is when like Mike Monroe very much knows that Blair Underwood's character is possessed. They even say like, ooh, let's go to the kitchen to cut the cake. And then the wife's like, we'll be back in a sec. And the guy's like, I will. I will. If I'm Mike Monroe in that very moment, I'm popping this dude in the mouth. Like, without hesitation.
Like, I guess you could argue like the wife's possessed too. So it's like, would it be the same result? But it's like, it's like how much, it's like one of those things, like she's like a by the book detective where it's like, words are words. I haven't seen any acts of aggression yet. Can't take any action on this yet. He said one of us is coming back alive, the other isn't. I don't know. It could be a joke. Who knows? Got to wait and see how this plays out here. And then you hear him hacking off her head with the cake knife. But yeah, it's like that's just kind of the final scene is like obviously that birthday party that was foreshadowed at the beginning of the movie is the final victim.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even mention
all the birthdays 14. Are on the 14th, and it creates like this upside down cross,
which is because my birthday is on the 14th. So the entire time I'm like, this didn't have to happen. And then yesterday, in the heat of the assassination attempt on Trump, his birthday's on the 14th. So I saw so many like Longlegs really at it again, fucking memes going around Twitter.
Yeah, so many. Yeah, obviously we didn't even mention that as the 14th. I kind of like that. Again, I like the aspect of it. I think it was quite cool.
Yeah, it's like a neat little thing. But yeah, I thought the birthday part was a little ham-handed where it's like once at the beginning, she's like, go to the, because like then once she uncovers the whole birthday thing about halfway through the movie. So it's like, okay, well, we had that awkward scene about a birthday party early in the movie. We're probably going to be going there. And then I just thought, and it's one of those things that like the thing I hate about talking about like psychological thrillers where there's like a mystery is because like whenever it's the same thing when people try to say like, oh, it didn't scare me. And you just kind of sound like an ass. It's the same thing with like a mystery movie where it's like, when it's like, you kind of knew the ending. Like it feels like an ass saying that. So I'm not trying to act like I'm like smarter than anyone. It's just for me, at some reason, the brain went there and I kind of like knew. I'm not trying to say I'm better than anyone, but
I'd be surprised if most people didn't know the ending, to be honest.
Yeah. Cause like the mom, I was like, it's very obvious that like the mom is posing as someone from, because it's like, who's going to let, because they keep saying like, who would let just like a random person in their house like someone from the church, and these small towns is like always going to be someone from the church is going to be who you're going to trust. You're never going to think twice about. And then the mom obviously being so creepy with like a whole say your prayers and all that shit. I'm like, oh, she's just like going to be a nun who goes to people's houses and gives them the Longlegs doll, and that kind of drops off there. But yeah, and by the way, when Longlegs kills himself, that's when the people walked out of my theater. That's like when they decided to dip out of the movie, which I was like, oh, interesting. I guess that's going into Act 3 is when they decided to peace out. But
dude, I thought that was
so why would you not want to know how it like how the whole of the
I don't know. I think that maybe
if you've got that far in, if you've got
like, oh, no more Nick Cage,
like oh, no more Nick Cage, I fuck that then. We'll stay here.
Maybe it's like Nick Cage's parents. I don't know. Or is it, I guess his parents would be one of the Coppolas, I guess. So probably not that living in Arizona. I don't know. But it's I don't know, man. Like it's a cool movie that I thought a lot was a little too much exposition for me. Whereas it's like I either wanted it to be either scarier or more mysterious, because I'm like just like staring at my screen right now where it says like it's a horror mystery. It's like either make it scarier to make it more horror for me, or like where it's gonna sit with me. And I know for some people it did. Like when I grew up in my dad's house, I lived in in an unfinished basement is where my bedroom was. So if I was still living there, I'd probably have still not slept since this movie came out, because how the hell would I be able to sleep in a cement floor, unfinished storage ass basement that looks like freaking literally like where Longlegs is staying? Like there's no shot I'd be able to sleep there. So right now don't have a basement here, so it's not affecting me as much, but it just didn't stay under my skin. And then the mystery I just didn't think was a good mystery. But like beyond that, I thought it was pretty cool. Seth, I'm curious, the Black Coat's daughter, is that also every single shot is center weighted, where it's like they're just in the middle of the screen every single time? Because I thought
a lot of the time,
old,
not all the time, if I remember correctly, but it's quite they are quite center weighted, a lot of them, especially the interaction scenes. If I remember correctly,
but like when it went upside down, I thought that was cool. And then she's like,
I did like that actually. I think the thing is with this film in general. I think the discussion around it is kind of annoying because if it scares you, cool. If it doesn't scare you, cool. You don't need to say to people, how you're not scared or how are you scared. I think, again, it's all going to be dependent on person's experiences and what they find scary and horror. And also, simultaneously, it's like, I don't know, man, within horror in general, it's just I think the discussion's kind of annoying about the overhyped, underhyped stuff. Because it's all going to be down to you as a person. And I think people, I don't know, do I find it scary? Not particularly. And also, it's like, the whole discussion, like, is this a horror film or not? Which I'm sure we'll be having soon. It's like, just because something doesn't scare you doesn't make it not a horror. Like, do you know what I mean? I think people will just go into it and like, oh, that didn't have jump scares. Or, I mean, it did, but, to the extent that people used to see it, especially like a more general-based audience, that's not a horror. When it's like something, just because something doesn't scare you or doesn't go the way you think, doesn't make something not a horror. Just because something isn't full of jump scares doesn't make something not a horror. Horror isn't just jumpy scares. It's everything. It's the nature of the film.
George, it's the same shit as The Bear, where like people will point out like, this is a super sad scene. How could this show be a genre of a comedy? It's like, there's so much more to it than just like, haha, make me laugh, so it must be comedy, and boo, jump scare, must be horror. Like, or, oh, these people fall in love, has to be a romance. So take notes, Letterboxd, because that's how they treat genres. A single jump scare must be a horror, a single laugh must be comedy, a single character liking someone romance. But
it is crazy, man. Letterboxd, we'll get onto this, but Letterboxd, you need to fucking sort it out, because it's like some of the shit on there we're going to speak about is like, come on, even we could figure that out. We're idiots.
With that, we'll wrap up our Longlegs discussion. There's a 3 out of 5 from Tyler, a 4 out of 5 from Seth, and a 4.5 out of 5 from myself.
One final quick comment. Sorry to cut you off, George. One final quick comment. I think this movie would fuck up Cam with the nuns.
I was gonna say, do you think
every time it shows the nun, like it, you notice that for like a split second, it has like the orange eyes.
Yeah.
I think this would Cam should not see this.
Cam's a big baby with that sort of stuff, so I think Cam shouldn't see this. I would like to see what I think. Cam, although scared, I actually think he'd quite like this. He'd do this. He'd give it a high rating. He'd say he'd hate it because it would scare him. But I actually can see Cam quite liking the film. Like just in general, I actually can, because I think this sort of procedural would kind of work for him. You know what I mean? I think this is like his horror than like a Conjuring, like a jumpy one all over the place or something. So I can kind of see him like this, but I think he would be the nun
imagery. I think we get.
Well, he tweeted about it when he saw it in the morning. He might have sent it to us in the group chat.
Yeah, he sent it to us, and I was like, "Great, now I have to see it the first thing I wake up in the morning." He gets up before me, obviously, but now we'll do the horrors.
After I saw it for the first time, I texted you guys, and Seth, you asked me like, you were basically like, "Don't tell me like what it is," and I was like, "Okay, I won't tell you what the movie's like kind of about." But Cam was like, "Bro, tell me, I don't care." So I texted Cam separately, and I was like, "Do you actually care?" And he was like, "Not even in the slightest." I go, "It's entirely satanic." He goes, "I knew it. Terrible. Sad to see my favorite franchise fall like that." I go, "Your favorite franchise?" ? He goes, "Yeah, the LCU, the Longlegs Cinematic Universe."
Fucking idiot, man.
But all right, we'll wrap up Longlegs there. Spoilers, probably not the last time we'll talk about Longlegs on this pod, but we're going to get into our top 10 horror movies of the decade. We'll go around, we'll do our 10 through 6 as we usually do, and then we'll go one by one, our 5 through 1. Now, we have set a couple of we'll call them disclaimers. Letterboxd labels. Yeah, we'll tell them now. Okay. Letterboxd labels, for example, Godzilla -1, a horror movie. None
it's
of
just
us are going to.
Monster, isn't it?
Let me make it clear. I'm assuming if we did include it in this ranking, it would be in all of our top 10s. It would be very high on mine.
In my top 3, for sure.
Okay, but we are not going to include it. Godzilla -1 is simply not a horror movie. What else did we talk about? Are we
Old and Knock at the Cabin? That's who we mentioned on text. Okay. I think that Old is arguable, but I'm not going to include it. I think Old's definitely more arguable than more defensible than Knock at the Cabin. But I'm just going to say I'm not going to include either. They would be high up on mine, both of them, especially Knock at the Cabin, but I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
Same token, The Menu, not a horror.
Yeah,
sticking with that thriller. There was a heated debate in our Discord. I don't know if you saw that stuff about The Menu, if it's a horror or not, but we all agreed we're not going to count as a horror. It's more thriller.
Bones and All, same thing. I wouldn't I think Bones and All.
My top 10, but I can move it out.
You can. Again, it's like it's down to you. I don't know. It's a difficult one because it's like. But then again, if we're including Bones and All, I fucked up now because
I feel like Bones and All is almost in the same vibe as like a Crimes of the Future, Infinity Pool sort of horror, where it's like
kind of, but I think less so. I don't know. Bones and All is like kind of body horror, like a raw. But I don't know if you've seen Raw. I don't think you have, but I wouldn't consider Raw horror. But I would consider her other film horror, which I was going to fucking speak.
Well, we're having the disclaimer, so I'm going to move Bones and All out. So Bones and All valid. George, I saw the TV Glow. Horror or not? Yes, horror. Okay. And then the only other one I'm not including, which would probably barely be in my top 10, but I really liked it. The Blackening. It's a horror comedy, but it's like the Scary Movie movies where it's like they're definitely horrors. They are, but I'm gonna keep it.
Okay, fair.
I would not but that is, I would call that a comedy before I called that a horror.
Right. So you would obviously it wasn't released. You wouldn't consider like Shaun of the Dead in this list. Obviously, if it was
right, like I would probably say like it to me, Shaun of the Dead horror, it counts. The same thing I'd say
comedy
Black,
first,
but I'm not going to put it personally in my top.
Yeah, 10. No, I wouldn't put it in the top 10 horrors, even though it would be. Okay, here's one because I know me and George spoke about this, and now George has seen it. I want to include it just because obviously I want to speak about it, but Titane, it's like
I have it on my list.
Titane is like such an amalgamation of like every genre in the world, literally that it's I don't know.
What I texted you, I think there's enough body horror in this movie that like makes me like really uncomfortable. And
there's more body horror than there is like Bones and All. When you say like in terms of how visceral it is,
that's why I would include Titane for sure.
Okay, we'll include
it's on my list. Yeah, okay. If you want to agree to not include it, I could take it off, but it's on my list.
Okay, on Google it says horror sci-fi.
Yeah, I think I should leave it. I think that level of body horror warrants this on our list. Okay. But all right, let's get into it. Unless I think that's it on the.
We'll say Nope is an arguable one, but we're all including Nope. We'll just get that out of the way. Correct. Even though I do think it's arguable, I'm going to include it.
I don't think it's arguable, but yeah, we're definitely including Nope. Tyler, we will start with you. The
10 through 6.
10 through 6 of your top 10 horror movies of the decade.
Yes. So maybe I remember off the top of my head what the ratings are, but 10 through 7 are all 3.5s out of 5s. Obviously, everyone knows I have I was going to say the lowest horror bag on this pod, but I think for 2020, decade, I think it might be above Cam at this point for more horrors this decade. So 100%. I would say, obviously, of the people on this podcast right now, my horror bag for present, past, future, going to be the least smallest bag of them all. So my list is going to look way different than the others, just simply because, obviously we have different opinions, but I've seen way, way less horrors ever than these guys.
Oh, we should have got up on our total, shouldn't we?
For how many horrors? But that's so hard with Letterboxd because then it's like you have to go through all but I'm saying like all the disclaimers, and it's like Godzilla -1 would be in there as horror, and then all the way down, like the twos and shit like that. But so number 10, I have Late Night with the Devil at a 3.5. I really just enjoyed David Dastmalchian, really like him as a person and an actor. And I thought he was great in his first lead performance. And I said the same thing when we talked Kinds of Kindness with Jesse Plemons. Those are two guys who've just been great supporting roles for so long that I really want to see get more lead opportunities. And I just really like the aesthetic of this movie. Thought it was fun. The whole, network spin on a horror where it's like just like a live television broadcast. I thought it was cool. I liked it. But again, set a 3.5, and it's like number 4 out of all my 3.5. So kind of goes to my precursor where it's like my top 10 is the top 10. Yes, but not like in love with all these. Number 9, shout out my friend George Carmi, Evil Dead Rise. What a fun movie. I had a blast with it. It's probably been close to a year now, maybe even longer ago, that I did the whole Evil Dead franchise run through. But I had a great time with Evil Dead Rise.
Your favorite one?
It is my favorite one. Yes. Actually, it's like that and the Evil Dead are neck and neck. Because I was a big fan of the Raimi trilogy. They're all like 3s for me. But the 2013 one, if that was Evil Dead or whatever one.
That's Evil Dead.
Evil Dead. Evil Dead. Yeah. The 2 new ones are my favorite too. Sorry, Sam Raimi, you're still a king. Number 8, I have Crimes of the Future. Not much needs to be said here. Biggest crone head on the podcast is obviously going to be a lock to be in my top 10. The latest from
That's
David
my
Cronenberg.
favorite running bit for you.
Yeah, the
I don't
biggest
think
Cronenberg.
you've watched the Cronenberg film since then. Since we had that, it was like a year ago, and it's just like the funniest shit ever.
It's just kind of one of those things. It's like why watch something it's a 5-star. It's like it's just a predetermined outcome. What's his next movie? Is it The Shrouds? Is what the
Shrouds?
The Shrouds. Yeah. So I'll be sat day one. Send me a screen. Someone send me the premiere. I got to meet Mr. Cronenberg in person. Number 7, the offspring of my king. Infinity Pool, Brandon Cronenberg. Second film, Possessor, was that his first?
I think it's his third film.
Yeah, I think I'm forgetting one. Possessor and then something else.
Maybe you're right. Maybe a second. He did do 3. It is 3, isn't it?
Yeah, one of them is just like way lesser known, I believe. No,
it was the one with the guy from Get Out. Yeah, it's the one. The Get Out, the Jeremy and Get Out, the like younger brother, well the brother, of the family. I'm pretty sure it's him in one.
Oh yeah.
Viral.
Antiviral.
That's the one. Yeah. I knew you had him.
Infinity Pool, cool movie. That was like early days of the podcast. That's probably like episode like 12 or something, because it was like January 1st or something of 2023 it came out. Cool movie. I love the atmosphere, love the aesthetic. Mia Goth, I think, is just so crazy great, and then Alexander Skarsgård also awesome. Just a vile, bizarre movie. That's kind of just like a true acid trip of a movie almost, and had a good time with it. And then number 6 is going to be Saw 10. That's a movie that's like affected me more than like any other horror movie I've seen in the past like 2 years, just because like, and I think a big thing is like being in a theater, like for any movie is going to affect you more than watching it at home. And body horror doesn't usually get me, but it did for Saw 10. And again, there's probably like the most body horror movie. I mean, like we can talk Bones and All and Infinity Pool, but not on the same level as like a Saw 10 for body horror, where I was like in the theater, I was like, man, this is getting to me. My heart rate is probably high for that. My stomach was turning. There's like the one that like when Seth and I reviewed this in length, there's like one body horror moment that I was like genuinely making me want to walk out of the theater. And that was immediately followed up by another scene where I was like, this might even be worse. I was like, holy shit, this is so disgusting. Saw 10 at 6. I'm excited to see the next one. I know it was supposed to come out in like 2 months, but I think they delayed it a whole year. It seemed like they revived that franchise, which is kind of crazy. I know a new Final Destination's coming out. I hope they revitalize that franchise the same way, because what a fun, silly franchise that is. Which is like funny because Final Destination 3 I had on DVD growing up terrified me as a kid. Then I rewatched it with a friend when I was like 18 in high school, and we were just like laughing our ass off, having a ball. It's just so fun how like movies can change over time and your perception of them, because I was so scary as a kid. Then it's like such a fun, like those are great movies, just like drink a beer with a buddy and like have a laugh and watch these bizarre moments. So there's my 10 through 6.
Very nice. I still got to watch. I haven't seen the latest Saw movie, so I gotta
cool.
up my horror game. But all right, Seth, 10 through 6.
Just quickly on body horror, because we watched this episode last night. Do you remember when Theon Greyjoy first gets captured by the Boltons, and the first thing you see, the fucking like the blade through his fingernail. Bro.
Oh yeah.
Oh my! And when they like twist that thing into his foot, oh my god, that is some crazy shit. That had me wincing like a Saw film title. That was mad. Okay, so 10 through 6. My 10, George doesn't like this. Sad. Is His House.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So His House is a
forgettable movie.
How dare you? It's so I really like it. It's an English film. I think conceptually on kind of immigration and the horrors of it, and coming from another country, and kind of the coming from poverty and kind of the housing conditions. I think it's a really, really sad horror film. Not necessarily scary, but really, really emotionally effective. My 9 is The Night House, which is the one with Rebecca Hall, I think from 2021, I think. Let me check. Yes, 2020, sorry. Kind of a film on grief and loss, but really, really stylistic. It's actually the same director who made, George, I'm going to assume that you've seen this. I don't know if you have, The Ritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, same director. I like The Ritual, but I like this more, even so. He also directed the Hellraiser one in like 2022, which I haven't seen, the like remake or reboot or whatever. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I think Night House is really good. Rebecca Hall is actually probably one of my favorite actresses working today. I think she's fantastic. My 8 is actually Barbarian, which I really, really liked. I liked even more. I've actually seen it like 3 times now. I liked even more on rewatch. Really just silly, you know, very, very on the nose with this commentary, obviously, kind of on misogyny and possession and whatever. And I think that Justin Long adds so much to that film. He's just so great. And I find the overly just ridiculous nature to be just, again, you talk about a film that subverts expectations. Barbarian for me is that. From the opening 10 minutes of Barbarian, and then when it gets to after that, I remember when we recorded our pod episode on it, was really funny because we were just talking about craziest shit. But the more I've watched it, the more I actually like it, and it really, really surprised me. And I'm really excited for his next film, which I think is like 2026, something like that. My 6 is When Evil Lurks, which was from last year. Just a disgusting horror, just full of grotesque imagery, despair, and then some of the best practical effects, I would say, of the decade so far, kind of along with like the Evil Dead likes. And just, yeah, it's so bleak, so vile. Some of the scenes, especially like if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about, the dog and the kid, crazy. But yeah, great time. I had a great time with it. Yeah, that's my. Oh, I should say as well, they're all a 4-star. So pretty happy with the horror bag, the decade, I think, anyway. But pretty 4-star so far, anyway. Wait, did I say 10 then? Wait, 6 then, or did I say 5?
You said When Evil Lurks was the last one you said.
That was your 6. When Evil Lurks, you said was number 6.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Got confused. George, carry on.
Me, carry on. I said I am surprised to see. I knew you liked When Evil Lurks. So I honestly did not know you liked it highly enough for a number 6 place.
Yeah, I really liked it.
He single-handedly got it nominated for a ReelTok award. Or wait, did you see it too, George, or no? Was it only Seth?
Yeah, just we reviewed it on the podcast.
Yeah, we did. All right, my number 10 is a Jane Schoenbrunn film. We're all going to the World's Fair. Just a really,
I didn't get a chance to rewatch that. I haven't seen it since release. I wish I could.
Yeah, I was hoping one of you would rewatch it because I'd be curious to see if one, if you would like it. 2, if you did like it, would it even fall in your top 10? Because it's fucked. It's just this really haunting, really neon infused, like depressed coming of age film. It's absolutely insane. I think what Anna Cobb is doing by herself, essentially, she's kind of putting on this one woman show, and she's just giving us this entire just slew of emotions, and you're watching her just like slowly dive into madness and lose her mind. And I think it's frightening. My number 9 is believe it or not, Bodies. That's kind of it's grown to be like one of those movies me and Victoria just go back and forth and watch. It's like one of those like easy, like, here we pick a movie, let's just watch Bodies. We find it funny. And I think I've seen it, how many times have I logged it now? 3 or 4 times. I've logged it 3 times, and I'm still like, I'm not getting tired of it. I think it works. I think the Gen Z humor works. I think it's funny. I think like the whole horror aspects of it could have been a little scarier, but there's enough like intrigue in the characters where I think it's good enough to like hold itself on its own. My number 8 is Talk to Me. Was that my highest rated horror movie of last year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think anyway.
Evil Dead Rise.
That was
2022, wasn't it? Wait, no, that was 2023. No, you might be right. No, I think you're right. That was last year. Was it?
Okay.
Yeah, it was a ReelTok Award nominee.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, number 8 is Talk to Me. I had a blast with this movie. I think it's fucking frightening. I obviously that like sequence with that like banging song is just so iconic at this point that I absolutely
still in my head very often.
It's always, dude, always in my head. It like an unbelievable
TikTok, wasn't it? For ages. It's like
but yeah, I really enjoyed Talk to Me. I think this is a really strong outing by Michael Philippou and Daniel Philippou. I think they did a really good job. And then Sophia Wilde, I think I was the only one that had nominated her for a ReelTok Award for Best Actress, and I stand by that nomination. I think she's fantastic in this movie. My number 7 is Watcher, starring Micah Monroe. I love this. It is a slow burn movie. And when I watched it, I remember the first thing I read was a Letterboxd review that just said Alfred Hitchcock would be proud. And I agree. It is so suspenseful. It is so just like, I don't want to say unpredictable, but it's just very like you don't know where this movie's going to go. You don't know the direction it's going to take. On its surface, it's just this movie about this woman who's just being like watched at night, and it ended up turning into this like really insane like just bout for survival, I guess. And then in this movie, the final shot of Micah Monroe that she gives her husband, like the look that she gives her husband, I think is like one of the best endings to any horror movie ever. So insane how good Micah Monroe is with, and I think Seth said this, or maybe it was Tyler. I think Tyler said this when he was talking about
Longlegs.
Jesus Christ, Longlegs, where like what Micah Monroe is able to do with her eyes and her facial emotions and expressions is just insane. And then number 6 for me, and you guys may be surprised not to see it a little higher, but a recent watch, 2 recent watches kind of took it out of my top 5. But my number 6 is Evil Dead Rise.
I thought that'd definitely be in your bottom 6. I know there's ones
that's
you
still
like
your
more.
highest of last year, though. So we were right that it's higher than
you were right.
Talk to
Yeah,
Me.
I was looking at the Letterboxd years, and they have Talk to Me as 22 and Evil Dead Rise as 23. So I was forgetting.
Never mind.
But yeah, I am slowly turning into the horror hot taker that Evil Dead Rise is the best Evil Dead movie. I love this thing. I think this is insane. It is so gory. I have to rewatch Evil Dead 2. I
some reason I thought this was your take since it came out. I thought you always said Evil Dead Rise was your take.
I know George's rating went up.
Yeah, I have Evil Dead 2 rated higher, and I'm going to keep it at that 4.5 until I rewatch the movie. But yeah, every time I watch Evil Dead Rise, I'm like, damn, this is like just from the opening sequence, the title card, which is obviously just all over Twitter. But beyond that, I love that we're taking this Evil Dead franchise to an apartment, to a really dull. Wow.
Yeah, I get it.
Sorry, Novak just saved 3 match points and broke back. That was insane. Did I just watch that? Holy shit! But yeah,
he's still washed.
But that was crazy. But yeah, Evil Dead Rise. It's so stupidly gory. It's so fucking funny. Like the scene where the sister is like standing or kneeling on the fucking countertop, cutting herself, and then she like crawls down. Dude, it's so good. It's such a fun time in the horror movie world. And I don't even, believe it or not, I really don't think the movie's that scary. It kind of just depends on your gore tolerance, and I have a pretty decent gore tolerance, I would say.
There's one scene, the like cheese grater scene, that was crazy.
Oh yeah, God,
I wish that was one of the like top tier Evil Dead. I mean, we've said it before, George, but every Evil Dead film is fucking good. That's the thing, you know. Like it's like every Evil Dead film has one of those moments where it's like Jesus fucking Christ, and that was definitely that. Yeah. And the cheese grater, they went all out with that. It's crazy.
But yeah, that was my 10 through 6. They are all 4 out of 5 stars. Evil Dead Rise is going to be a 4.5 out of 5 star, honestly, right after this podcast. Tyler, number 5.
Yeah, I won't go too much into it because it's already been mentioned, but number 5 is Talk to Me. And yeah, I already mentioned as well that song is still stuck in my head, like way more often than I would like to admit. Like probably once a week, I'm just thinking about that. Fucking great song, great montages. I miss TikTok of when those montages were everywhere. But yeah, Talk to Me, fun movie. Only seen it once, but it's just a cool movie, man. Like I love some of the ways it was shot. I know they have another movie coming out. I can't remember. They're like YouTubers, right, or something. But I don't know. I dug it. Cool. Sophie Wilde, really cool in it as well. The ending of that was solid. Like I don't know, it's an all around cool movie. Like it's definitely nowhere near like my favorite ever, but it's above all other ones I mentioned. So therefore, it's landing at 5.
Seth, number 5.
Can anyone remember my 10 through 6? I messed up.
It ended. I know it ended on When Evil
ended. I think number 10 was His House.
Yeah, yes. And then it was The Night House.
Then it was The Night House.
Then it was Barbarian.
Barbarian. Did you say Bart?
Yeah, Barbarian was on there.
What else did I say, Tyler?
So we're missing one in there?
Unless I was skipped. I think that might be it. I mean, maybe I didn't say one because I don't think I said Longlegs, did I?
Oh, was Longlegs being there? No, you did not mention that in your ranking.
Okay.
So where would that be?
Okay. I feel like I said 5. Did I say 5?
I don't remember any other ones. So I think Longlegs you passed over.
Are you sure? I'm scared, Tyler.
The historians of Real Talk will comment down below. If you have 11, who cares? Just throw where we
Wait. I'm just double checking. I don't think I said. Okay, so. No, I didn't. Okay. So yeah, okay. So let me just run through again. So 10 was his house, 9 was the night house, a lot of houses. 8 was Barbarian, 7 was Longlegs, and then 6 was When Evil Lurks. So Longlegs fit just between Barbarian and When Evil Lurks. I don't know why I said that. Okay, my 5 is Chime from this year, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Chime. Really on the precipice of a feature film, being 45 minutes.
I was going to say
40 minutes is the 40 minutes is the cutoff point where it becomes feature. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I love Kiyoshi Kurosawa's work. I think this, man, no one else is able to get under my skin quite as well as he can. And I think within Chime as well, where you're just seeing kind of everyday tasks and the mounting pressure and kind of this building paranoia in the film and fear that lingers even just in a short 45-minute time frame. He can make something so existential but so fucking creepy at the same time. George, again, you need to watch it.
Really I know. Yeah, I think you mentioned this like 2 or 3 episodes ago, and I put it on my watch list. I'll
get around. 45 minutes, remember? So it's like, if you ever got no time,
yeah.
Just quick.
Quick aside, speaking of watch list, I finally cleared my watch list. I deleted everything off it. There's one movie on my watch list now. One movie. Cure.
What is it?
Kiyoshi Kurosawa's.
That is a good film to have on there.
One movie, only one.
Watch list though.
Because it had 3,900 movies, so it's no longer an effective.
Every film, George, every single film I would look at, Tyler had in his watch list.
It's no longer the purpose of a watch list.
Anytime someone logs a movie I haven't seen, I throw it on like my watch list. I do.
Which is what I will do from now on. But I had not exaggerating, probably 1,600 movies on that watch list that I'm never gonna watch.
What's your watch list? Yours mine's like 1,250 in a minute.
Mine's only 797, so it's actually not as deep.
Yeah, around the 1,000 marks where I wanted it to be, but it was just easier to just clear it and I'll start from scratch. So
I'm gonna make like a list, like a priority list, like on thing where I can just make a separate one because I haven't got time to clear mine, but it is a bit of a nightmare. George, your 5?
My 5, Seth, let's talk about it, is Titane. I watched it 2 nights ago. I will tell you, I think it'll go high. I think on rewatch, it'll be higher on this ranking. And I think on rewatch, it could even hover that 5 out of 5 slot. But this was a crazy experience. It's one of those movies where it's like, why did I like this? Like, I typically do not like body horror. I really don't.
I was very scared. Very, very scared.
Yeah, not that I was scared of the body horror, but I was just scared of I was scared of disappointing you, Seth. I didn't want you to wake up the next day to a 2.5 out of 5.
It's funny. That was like the first thing I checked when I woke up. I went to our letterbox. I finished it. I was like, shit.
I logged it late, and I'm like, damn, maybe Seth's up watching UFC and he'll see it, but no, he didn't. But yeah, this was visceral. This was such an interesting look at identity and unconditional love. It was just so built on humanity and just it was so good. The one thing though, and Seth, I'd love to hear your take on this right now. The one thing that holds it back from a 5 out of 5. What was the point of the subplot with the dad and the steroids?
Is this going to get into spoilers? I'm going to watch this movie tonight.
Then we will not.
Well, no, that's fine. I was just going to throw on spoilers.
I'll just say one word which won't spoil anything for Tyler. And I think it goes into kind of the whole toxic masculinity. So there are. I'm
going to take a quick little bathroom break. So you guys go ahead.
Okay. So there's kind of a few different interpretations of this film. And again, it's one of those like a Lynch. You can just fucking think whatever you want.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've previously read and kind of what I had an affiliation to at the start. But again, so one of the things is that the dad actually had a kid who was a transgender.
Okay.
Who's obviously the kid that died. One of the theories that the dad actually killed the kid.
Okay.
Because they were transgender, and that's why you kind of see the whole identity phasing through it. And the whole stuff with the steroids is kind of a product of masculinity, a product of showcasing that, a product of kind of him wanting to be, the kind of the manly man and that instance and kind of what he wants for his kid. But again, I think it's down to you. I think that kind of the beauty of it for me is there's a lot of themes of acceptance in there, and I think that's what goes across. I think you can tell the dad clearly maybe didn't treat his kid correctly. Whether he killed or not, I don't know if I believe so, but I think it's an interesting concept, and I think that there's clearly a whole, it's an allegory for not only identity but also gender in terms of the way that she transitions, and I think that's the whole point of the film.
Yeah.
I think it is about that kind of unconditional love and acceptance between it, and again that the steroid sequences are him kind of pushing that masculinity and that tone, that theme into the film. And I think that kind of why it works so well, because eventually kind of as he does it more and more, you kind of see that demise, and it's also kind of comes into what you see in the sequences with him in the fire service as well, kind of the whole sort of camaraderie and what you see when the people who work there first kind of meet her or him at that point, kind of what they think, and again it's like the brutal workforce in that place. And I think that for me the most like beautiful moment of Titane as a film, and again I think I'm not going to say too much because I actually want you to watch it again, because I think I watched it like 3 times now, and every time I've kind of worked things out a little bit more. Well, not working this out, but just made my own assumptions. So I want you to watch it again. What do you think? But I think the most kind of beautiful moment in this film for me is, two. The first kind of dancing sequence of the both of them when they're kind of having the party. I love that moment. I think that's such a stunning scene, and I think it is about that kind of fatherly bond and acceptance. But again, it's kind of what you choose to believe from there. But that's kind of my interpretation, that it is the whole kind of masculinity and acceptance in terms of that gender issue, and kind of the fact that the kind of love has no bounds. I think that's where obviously like kind of the car comes into place as well and stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes total sense in the masculinity. I think I was just overlooking like that little subplot because I was just I was so captivated by like this movie's like look at gender identity, unconditional love, and I was just so captivated by like this like insane journey we were on, where like I also went into this movie just not I had no idea what it was about. I texted you. The only thing I knew about this movie is that a woman has sex with a car. It's the only thing I knew. So even reading like the letterboxed
the synopsis on Google and that was entirely different. One talks about the second part and one talks about the first part. It's completely
the letterbox synopsis talks about like a father finding his long lost son. So like I read that while I was watching the movie, and I was like, am I watching the right fucking movie? And then obviously it turns to that. But I really liked Titane. It was just such a captivating experience, it just profoundly like sincere, but also just such a painful and sometimes difficult to watch little dissection of gender identity and unconditional love, and I had a really, and on top of that, it was just I think technically sound. The entire opening sequence of her like walking through the crowd, you're kind of in this car show, and you're instantly just like captivated by like her as a character and like this serial killer like resolve that she's on, and then like her journey, which on its surface like you're watching this movie and I'm like, wow, okay, so that's what I'm watching. I'm basically watching just how is this woman gonna like avoid authority? How is she gonna like survive being a serial killer, like leaving her family, killing all these people? And then it just turns into this like insanely profound experience, touching on like ideas and themes that I was not prepared for. So I am excited to go into this a second time now, kind of like knowing the direction that this movie like takes, because I think a big part of like why this isn't a 4.5 out of 5 for me, beyond the steroid subplot, was I think I was just so thrown off guard that like it took me time to really be like, whoa, what just happened? Like what pivot did we just take? Like I need to lock back in.
I'm pretty sure I could get thrown off on first watch as well. I think like it's like boiling it down to the fact that like the whole thing is on humanity and kind of how everyone wants the same thing but in different avenues and acceptance. But I think there's so many different angles it takes where there's so much you can kind of pull from it. You've got the whole first half with obviously kind of her murder streak and kind of her relationship with her dad and family, which you see, and also what happens to her as a kid as well, which kind of comes into it. And then after that, you've got the whole transition, kind of body modification in that way completely, where she breaks her nose. That's a crazy scene, by the way. And then obviously the scene with the dad and the fire scene, and obviously you've got all the kind of the car subplot and the metal subplot, and again the sensitivity stuff. I think it's just one of those things that kind of gets better the more you watch it, just because there's so much to pull. I think the only thing that turns people off is that it is kind of crazy. There are some scenes where it's like about the pregnancy when she's pregnant and stuff like that, and kind of some of the scenes with the dad. But I just think it really manages to find beauty in its strangeness.
Yeah. So two things I would like to tell you my perspective, and then I would like your perspective to see if we align. Mm-hmm. So the first thing is the fake mother, like not like the fake dad's wife, who I'm assuming they're not together. She comes in, immediately has disdain for her long lost son. She's immediately weary of him. She immediately is like, she's basically like, this isn't you. You are not his son. You are not this man. So I was reading a couple of reviews that were basically saying like, this is, if you look at this movie as like this, like take on gender identity and like the trans experience, this is such an interesting scene to like put in, because this is very much like, okay,
reality.
Like,
yeah,
it's reality where it's like someone like is just not accepting you for who you are, which like, I get it. The whole movie is basically trying to like, I don't know. The whole movie is basically trying to be like, hey, be comfortable with your identity, be comfortable with unconditional love, blah, blah, blah. And then they just throw in this little sequence with this mom, and she comes in and she's basically like, you are no longer like my son. I don't give a fuck who you are. Like, you're not who you once were. It was just such an interesting scene, because I feel like that kind of like diminishes the trans experience, but where it's like, you're trying to like give me this movie that's basically like asking me to be comfortable with my gender identity. And then you throw in this one scene where it's like, but people won't be comfortable with it. People will still look at you and like have hatred towards you because of what you're doing with your identity. So I thought it was such an interesting little thing to throw in that movie.
Yeah, I think it's like an inner conflict as well. Kind of she portrays like the inner conflict of the two sides. And I think like as well, like you could watch this film and think in the most simple of senses. And again, people will think that this way, that it's not an allegory. Well, whatever. But I think that people could think, it's essentially just the dad accepts her because he lost his son. And the whole thing is the acceptance, that the reason he's accepting, the reason he's trying to take her in, and the reason he's trying to convince everyone is because he's so struck by grief and trauma that he'll do anything to have that familial connection back that he's lacked so much. And that's why, and again, I think the reason, we don't know this, but the reason, his son went in the first place, or the reason whatever happened, is kind of how maybe he forced him away or pushed him away. And again, that comes into kind of his inability to be sensitive and to understand things from a complex point of view. And you could look at it like she comes home and she's like, you're not who everyone thinks, you're not who he thinks you are. And I think she says something like,
listen, I'm ignorant to the trans experience, to the LGBTQ experience. But I'm assuming that's just like, that's reality. Like, it doesn't matter how comfortable you are in your own skin. There will always be people that just don't accept you for who you are. So, but I still it was such a very interesting like change of pace in the movie, where the whole movie was basically like, please be comfortable with who you are. And this movie is trying to showcase that. And then they throw in this one scene where it's like, well, it doesn't matter how comfortable you are with yourself. Some people might not be comfortable with it. Which like I get, like I understand, like that's probably reality, and it's most likely reality. But it just felt like such an odd little thing to like add in. And then the second thing I wanted to ask you about was, what do you see the final sequence as being, where like she gives birth? Wow, Carlos Alcaraz just won Wimbledon. That's crazy.
Who's Carlos Alcaraz?
Alcaraz. Don't disrespect him.
So did Andy Murray not win?
Andy Murray didn't even play.
He didn't play in Wimbledon. I thought he did.
No, but so the very last, she's giving birth, and the baby comes out, has titanium plates all over the body, and she dies. And the last thing the dad says is like, "I'll take care of you." Is that just furthering this like idea of unconditional love, or is like the birth of this little titanium baby basically like our main character just like being reborn into a more comfortable standard body?
Yeah, so there's a few things about this that I've kind of thought myself and stuff. And I think, I get it. I mean, the whole thing is unconditional love. The whole thing is kind of everyone wants the same thing in terms of that kind of appreciation, that connection. But it's kind of the weakness passing on to the baby, in that kind of, it's a titanium baby. It's a body forged in titanium, in this thing, which is like solid on the outside, but the exterior and the cry is as human as everybody else. And it kind of goes into that kind of outer shell that she builds. And I think that kind of reflects the first half as well, where so the first half in kind of the environment that she's in and what she does for a job, and kind of the men she meets, especially, in that opening scene in the car, which is crazy, where that guy comes over and he won't leave her alone, and then she ends up just pencil or whatever it was, pen, I can't remember what it was now. But yeah, that's like, I think what it goes into is like the toxicity that it breeds, and how she has to have kind of this outer exterior. She's not able to fully express herself and be as sensitive as maybe she wants, and sensitive as she wants in terms of connection. So it's kind of like how I see it is, a Titane is like the outer shell, and that's where you hear the cries. It's like a normal person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's kind of like where I was getting at, which is like, well, which was my understanding of it. I just didn't know if there was like something more that I was kind of missing, because like,
I mean, there might be, not from what I think.
Listen, I'm sure you could ask 600 people about this movie and you'll get 600 different interpretations. But I'm going to text Tyler to come back.
You've just done like a Titane review, by the way. So if you listen,
yeah, I know.
Oh, you should watch Raw though. I know you don't like cannibal stuff a lot, but you should watch Raw.
I know. I will. I will get around to Raw eventually. Especially, I mean, listen, I told you I don't fuck with cannibals. Not my thing. But
I don't fuck with cannibals. To be fair,
before Titane, like Tyler said, I did not fuck with fucking cars. So, Tyler, we just did a whole review.
We just did like a review.
Yeah, good.
That was my number 5, which means now we're going to move on to Tyler's number 4.
Correct. My number 4 is a movie I definitely like more than most people, and that's The Black Phone, Scott Derrickson's. Riley and I had a blast with this movie. A lot more. I mean, again, we've ran it to the ground about genre bending and different. What do you classify it as? But this is a very like supernatural sci-fi blend of horror, and I don't know, really dug it. I thought there was a lot, like Riley and I had a blast just like driving home talking about like so many like nuggets and little symbols and moments of the movie that we wanted to just dissect and pick apart a little more. But yeah, I really like The Black Phone. Ethan Hawke just always is great. I mean, like, when is Ethan Hawke not just awesome? But yeah, I had a great time with Black Phone. I know they're making a second one.
What did you say?
Go with that, but
I said Moon Knight.
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
the Marvel show is when Ethan
and
Hawke
I think he was in a movie where it was him and Selena Gomez like driving away like in a getaway car. I only remember that because I was back when I worked at AMC and they let theater employees take home posters. I was like a 16-year-old boy, so I was like, Selena Gomez poster, hell yeah, I'll get it. So it's Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez and some. I'm gonna look at what that movie's called. See if either of you have even heard of it.
Never like wait.
Movie. Getaway. It's called Getaway, directed by Courtney Solomon, who's also directed The Strangers Chapter 3 and Chapter 1.
I've never seen that in my life. I've never even heard of this film.
Yep. Well, Ethan Hawke and Selena Gomez. He's the producer of the Strangers movies, guys. He's only directed 3 movies: Dungeons and Dragons in 2000, 2005 An American Haunting, and then 2013 Getaway. The highest being a 5.0 on IMDb, the others being a 3.6 and a 4.4. And then he went on to produce all the Strangers movies. So what a filmography. But yeah, I like The Black Phone. Don't know how we got there.
Number 4.
My 4 is The First Omen. The First Omen, which obviously, I reviewed it on here, but and no one else had kind of seen it at that point. I really like The First Omen. I'm assuming it won't be the last list. This features on spoiler. I think it's just balls to the wall, just ridiculous, like just grotesqueness and kind of really poignant religious subtext. And I think we've had this discussion so many times and how they use religion. I think this is perfect. The only thing I didn't like about The First Omen is Tyler, spoiler. It's kind of spoiler. It is the fucking like callback. The MCU ass fucking callback.
They named the boy.
They named him.
Amen.
And it's like, oh, fuck off. But everything else I really liked. I think I was just going to watch it again. Turn things off, I won't say anything else. I was going to watch it again yesterday, but I didn't get a chance. I really enjoyed this film. I think it's going to go up and rewatch me. The opening, talk about opening scenes. This one is one of my favorite opening horror scenes, maybe ever, honestly. I think it's so beautiful with kind of the shine lights and the glass falling. I think it's just stunning. And again, like we've all praised, I think Nell Tiger Free is amazing, and also Akash Stevenson, visually I think one of the most interesting horrors and one of the most provocative horrors we've had in a long time, and it's also fucking disgusting, which is cool. But yeah, 4 out of 5.
Very nice. My number 4 is another 2 Jane Schoenbrunn movies on my top 10. My number 4 is I Saw the TV Glow. Not going to harp on it too much. Tyler and I did a nice little in-depth spoiler review a couple episodes back when the movie dropped, but Yeah, absolutely insane experience. I still think about this movie every so often. I've said this a couple times in the podcast. I don't know what to do with this movie. Every time I think about it, I like it more. I like it less. I like it all over the place. But it still has that just lasting impact on me that just warrants this top 5 spot for me, top 4 spot for me. Absolutely haunting imagery coupled with some insane themes of gender identity and the trans experience. So I've seen it twice. And I've been affected by it both times in completely different ways, both times that I've seen the movie. But yeah, I won't harp on it too much because we talked about it a lot. But I Saw the TV Glow is my number 4.
I can finally see it next week, actually.
Wow, I forget you still haven't seen it.
That's crazy. Friday.
As far as the A24 distributed movies go, not the longest of gaps between them. I mean, Pearl had to be the biggest gap.
Pearl was
like, I think it was like 6.5 months or something. It was crazy. Yeah, it was stupid. But yeah, finally see it next week. So people will hear my thoughts next week as well. Also, George, funny enough, they're playing Shin Godzilla straight after, like on a double feature. So that'll be kind of cool. Maybe I'll try that. Shin Godzilla's hard.
A weird double feature.
That's a weird double feature.
No, they're not doing that they're doing like a bunch of the Godzilla films. They're showing that right after, so I might try and double feature next week. That'd be cool.
Nice.
Tyler,
my number 3.
Top 3.
Yeah, my number 3 is Watcher. So George mentioned that, but I love Watcher. Again, similar to what I'll say about The Black Phone, is another movie that Riley and I watched together and just had a great time talking about, dissecting. Love, obviously, Micah Monroe is incredible, but what's the name of the other dude, the actual dude in the movie? Creepy as hell. Gorman, freaking creepy dude.
Yeah.
And then the final scene, like George mentioned, the final like face shot of like Micah Monroe is just all timer. One of my favorite moments of any movie this decade. Just such a satisfying ending, and you're like, hell yeah, like fuck you, and it's such a good time. I'm due to rewatch it though, even though it's like I don't think it's like top 3 horror on rewatch, unfortunately. But like I want to rewatch it, even though I don't think I'll like it as much on rewatch. But it's still really good. Like I really like it.
Nice. Oh yeah, happy to see that so highly rated. I don't know if I knew you rated that very highly, but that makes me very happy. Seth,
I should mention the Cam. I think that would be his number 1.
Yeah, I think that would be very. Cam gives that a 4.5, I believe. So that would be very highly on Cam's. Seth,
my 3 actually is Mad God, which is
nice.
So I rewatched Mad God a long time ago actually. So I watched it the first time when it was July 2022. Hadn't watched it for ages. And I watched it again in late November of last year, so not too long ago. I think Mad God is kind of a masterpiece in that it really is just this amalgamation of just artistic value and ridiculousness and this huge kind of odyssey of Phil Tippett's that he spent like 30 years creating. And I think it's so just powerful and full of kind of despair. And it really, really is down in the kind of trenches of Earth, and I love its disgusting nature. I actually love this kind of animation style as well, or animation, whatever if you want to call it that. And yeah, there's something about Mad God which kind of screams to me as not only a passion project, but something I kind of want more of, which is interesting considering there's a lot to it, but I think narratively speaking, there's not much to it. I just enjoy the experience. I enjoy being in the world. I enjoy seeing what I'm seeing. I enjoy the fucking every corner the main guy that you follow goes around just meeting some of the craziest creature designs you've seen in years. It's an interesting one. It's not for everyone, but I just find that I just really, really connected with it. No rating, similar to like Chime, because I think it's tough to rate. I actually did rate it 4-star on first watch, and then I removed it like a week after, I remember. So yeah, no rating for me. If I had to put it, I'd like 4.5. I really, really love this in the weirdest way possible. So yeah, my 3rd is Phil Tippett's Mad God.
Hell yeah.
I'll throw out like just an honorable mention for Mad God because I chose to exclude it just because I didn't know how to rank it among like these other feature films. But I do agree with you. I think it's one of the better like experiences in horror of the decade, but it's not in my top 10. I'm not going to harp on my number 3. It's Longlegs. We just spent an hour talking about it, so we'll just move straight to Tyler for our 2 and 1.
Should we just say 2 and 1 as well? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do 2 and 1 at the same time.
Yeah, number 2 for me is The First Omen. Seth foreshadowed that it was going to be popping up again on someone's list. I was blown away by this movie. I thought every single shot, every single scene was so meticulously crafted and so much care and effort put into everything. Like I would just continually have my jaw on the floor, blown away by this film. And that's just from a style and visual perspective alone, not even talking about like the actual narrative, which I think in terms of just like horror movies, like, I mean, Seth, you just watched Immaculate. Like, obviously, like they both basically tackle the same exact thing. They're both kind of doing the whole Immaculate Conception type thing. And, you know, it almost there's so many scenes that are like carbon copies of each other, which, like, I'm not saying like they're copying each other because these movies literally came out like a week after each other. It's just very odd timing that they just ended up being, you know, back to back like that. But I'm just trying to say that the narrative I didn't think was anything like extraordinarily mind-blowing, but I thought it was bold. I thought it was innovative. I thought the way it was delivered was awesome. I already want to rewatch it. The ending was so silly, which we talked about in the little spoiler section just there, but this is what I knew it was coming.
Franchise, yeah, I knew it was going. It was such like a franchise.
I knew it was going to because someone already told me about it.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. Like, I was like, hell yeah, that's so silly.
So silly. Kind of made me laugh. If anything, I actually quite liked it. You know, because it was that stupid. You know,
but yeah, like you said, the opening scene is so awesome. We get like barely any Bill Nye, which is kind of crazy because he's such like an established actor that like to have him just like in the movie, like he was kind of in at the beginning, then in a little later, like just not in it much at all. Wish we would have got more of him purely for the reason of just like I love him. I don't really think like his character added much more to the story. But
I love Ralph Ineson just generally. I think he's amazing. I love his voice so much. But the guy, like in the Green Knight, especially George, and I will rewatch the Green Knight. That guy's voice is just fucking so cool, man. He has that perfect voice for like horror. And I think he fit that role perfectly as well, as did you know Nell Tiger-Free, as we already mentioned.
For sure. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Nell Tiger-Free does next. I'm excited to see what Akasha Stevenson does next. I don't know if she's going to stick with the horror genre, if she's going to do anything outside of it. You know, we obviously saw Paul Schrader had that hot take post making the rounds of him saying that he's disappointed that young directors stay with horror because he feels like it's a lame genre for them to stick with.
It's beneath like proper art. I think he says. Paul Schrader is such a fucking like old man. Like you can't help but laugh because his takes is fucking hilarious, right? So
I don't know. I obviously don't know British lingo as well, but he just seems like the definition of a geezer. Like that just seems like a geezer is Paul Schrader.
I don't even know like if he's a geezer. I think he's like a geezer / boomer. You know, he's like in the middle of like the old.
Yeah, he might even be beyond boomer. I don't even know how old he is, but he's up there. But number one then being Nope, which we just didn't we? Yeah, we all four of us were on
that. Yeah, right? direct them to the Patreon because we did a very in-depth. Yeah, we did interpretations, spoke about everything, spoke about what's his name, Van Hoytema. Van Hoytema didn't he?
Hoyte. Yep.
We spoke about everything. So, you know, if you want to hear about
be a patron, go join our Patreon and check out because we talked about it for like 40 minutes. So obviously I loved it as my number one of the year. Interesting though, I posted an Instagram poll saying like, if you had to pick one genre, what would you call Nope, sci-fi or horror? And last I checked, it was 70% sci-fi out of like several hundred responses. So it's one of those that, I can see people being like, why do you like in our Discord again yesterday, which was another reason to join the Patreon. There was debate about like, do you consider it yes or no? I think it's absolutely like it fits in the bounds of a horror. But also at the same time, I think a lot of the stuff we said disclaimers about. If you called it a horror, I wouldn't be mad about either. So it's just, you know, we kind of set our guidelines when we started this ranking. We said what we're including, what we're not. Nope made the cut, so Nope's my number one. It's
a creature feature, isn't it? If you consider like Jaws a horror and Nope is horror, it's like similar thing. So my two, funny enough, is Nope, which again, if you want to hear our thoughts, we did like a 40-minute review on it. It was one of our better ones because all four of us won it as well. So it was a really, really good one. My number one, obviously, me and George have literally just done a fucking full review on, basically, is Titane. I think Titane is a masterpiece. It's one of my favorite films ever at this stage. Amazing balance of restraint, compassion. I think it's beautiful. That's some of my favorite scenes ever. Blah, blah, blah. 5 out of 5. Oh, yeah. Nope was a 4.5 out of 5, and this is a 5 out of 5 as well. So, yeah. Tyler, I'm a bit pissed off at you for not watching it. I said pissed off. That's how you know I'm getting English with it as well. But, yeah, you should have watched it, man. I was really sad.
I know. Bummed. I was up against the clock, and honestly, like I did press play, and then I realized it was in French. I was like, man, I'm just too tired right now to be like focusing on subtitles.
You couldn't just like learn French. You couldn't just like.
I wish, man. I wish.
Sad.
Kylian Mbappe, shout out, George.
I forgot to mention Titane, TV Glow, and Longlegs are all 4.5 out of 5s for me. My top two are both 5 out of 5s. My number two, a little sad not to see it on anyone else's list.
Is it mid?
It is Malig Peak. This movie is so fucking corny in like the best way possible.
How did you like that? You are
Dude,
the
I
biggest.
had
Yeah,
no
you like melodrama.
We're gonna talk about
George,
Malignant.
George
I
likes
like that.
cars.
Oh my
George
God.
likes people having sex with cars, and he loves melodrama, and he's going to love cannibalism next. This is the George way. I'm telling you.
Okay,
George loves
melodrama.
this shit.
I'm all over the place on with melodrama. I did not love it in May, December. I obviously did not love it in what's that dog shit movie that came out earlier this year? Challengers. What was there was another movie we spoke about that was melodramatic, and
Bram
you called
Stoker
me,
that you loved.
Oh yeah, Dracula.
Yeah.
So clearly it's melodrama in horror that tickles my fancy and that, you know, rubs me the right way. But yeah, Malignant is it's so much fun. It's so much fucking fun. It's like there are these like just stupid drops of like character realizations where like the camera quickly pans into the face and there's like this like realization music going on in the background. But beyond like the quirky and like the stupidness of this movie, like I truly think, like genuinely, I think James Wan, this is where he shines the brightest with like his horror sequences. Like the entire fucking sequence where Gabriel is mowing people down in that police station.
I won't deny it.
Insane. Like that's straight out of the Matrix mixed with like that James Wan flair. It's so insane. And then I don't know about you, Tyler, and I know you watched it for the first time yesterday, so I'd love to hear your take. I did not like that twist. Still kills me. Like it's so cool. Like I had no idea. I truly like. I wish I could like be smart on this pod and be like, oh, I saw that twist coming from a mile away. But like the twist is that Gabriel is in the back of her head. Like Gabriel.
I think Malignant's an impossible movie to watch if you're on film, like, because it's like I obviously knew that because it's like that's just one of the things
that image
is all over the spot.
It doesn't. Whenever I see that image, to be fair, it makes me feel a bit like weird. You know what I mean? Like just the face coming out.
That's why my first line of my review is like James Wan's Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone with freaking Voldemort in the back of that dude's head, doing all these freaking kills, which like low-key, like very accurate. But this movie, like James Wan's cool because he has such a signature style, which is weird because like Conjuring, like I didn't really notice it as much, but like maybe this is him kind of getting back to the style that people know and love. I haven't seen all his films, but this felt so soft to me. Like the way it was shot, the fast editing, like it felt so early 2000s, which is so bizarre for like a 2021 film.
Yeah, I get that.
And like this is so melodramatic. I can't believe George loves it so much because like, and I'm not saying anything negative about melodrama, just based on like George, but the whole like there's such a May December like so many hot dogs moment when she like tells her like I'm adopted. Then it starts playing like a song. It starts playing the instrumental "Where Is My Mind" by the Pixies. I'm like, this is so silly, but I can see why people love it. Like it's so over the top, silly. I texted you guys in the group chat because I watched Longlegs, and the next day I watched First Omen, and then this, and I was like, oh, this is like this is a real tried and true horror. Where it's like, you know, right away, it's like there was jump scares galore. There was like classic, you're in a dark house, creepy. Like I just felt like it was like. What you would like when you like say Chat GPT, what's a horror setting? It's like Malignant is like the very stereotypical like horror movie setting. But yeah, it's I don't know. I know a lot of people on film Twitter like love this movie. Like this is like all my friends' ratings on this are like 5s and 4.5s. I think Seth and I are the only people low on it, which is crazy. Cam too. Cam also. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to like it, but I just wasn't able to be honest with myself and enjoy it. I really didn't care for the lead actress. I thought she was quite dull. And the whole cast, I think, was quite dull, which is weird because this is like James Wan's like biggest budget film, but he got like no one that anyone.
Yeah, but you can see where that went. Though, to be fair.
Yeah. And the style and visuals I thought were incredible. Like clearly James Wan has the sauce when it comes like directing and creating
of course
bizarre horror visuals. But so I'm not. That's like literally why it's a 3-star. Because if it wasn't as cool looking as it was. I don't know, man. I wanted to so bad. I wanted to buy into this movie, but I just didn't. I just didn't like this movie, man. But it was so well shot and looked so cool that I gave it a 3. But yeah, Malignant, man. I don't know. I have this weird feeling. I think if Seth rewatches, I think he's gonna like it a lot more. But
I don't have that feeling because I kind of have that feeling as well. But I want to stay true to my Malignant. You know, I want to like be in this crowd, not that crowd.
It is.
But I also
it's a 3.1.
I usually like as well.
3.8. So like my friends are high on.
Mine's a 3.5. I do think I like it because I said to you last night. I said to you guys, there's not one James Wan film I've seen that's under 3-star other than Malignant. And that doesn't say a lot. Even like,
Chill out, dude.
even Dead Silence is over it, and Insidious
That's a James
2.
Wan movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen that shit. Then that was the one.
Yeah, because that runs our Discord, by the way. That's like an inside joke in our Discord. People use that reaction of just the the doll all the time. I haven't seen the Aquaman films though, to be fair, so who fucking knows? But yeah, I do want to rewatch it because it does seem like something I'd probably like. I don't. It was a while. I've not seen it for about 2 years, I think, at least. So who knows?
But yeah, that so many damn jump scares in that movie. That was just like left and right. I was like, good lord. But I'm never one to be like disappointed by like cheap jump scares. But it was interesting watching that right after the first album because they had the same exact, which I'm sure, like again, my horror bag's not deep. So I'm sure there's in plenty of horror movies, and it's probably an homage to something from the classic 70s because horror fans love their homages to classic horror films. But the whole like curtain blowing over the camera screen, then when it goes back, there's a jump scare. It was just funny watching that right back to back of the first time because like, oh damn, they both had that same exact jump scare. So it didn't give me the second time. I was like, oh, curtain blowing. It's like the classic, like But yeah, I don't know. Malignant, whatever. Fun movie for people. Not for me.
Fun movie for those people. Yeah. Those people.
Those idiots. Those
True.
fucking losers. Nope is my number one. Not gonna harp on it. This is such a good movie. We talked about it pretty in depth on our Patreon. So if you want to go hear the four of us yap about Nope for like 35-40 minutes, take a look at our Patreon. But yeah, this is just science fiction horror at one of its very best. I love it. I love what Jordan Peele and Hoyte van Hoytema are doing with the narrative, with the IMAX camera. It's so good. It's too good. But that'll wrap up top 10. Let's quickly run through our top 10 so Mateo can get a nice clip. Tyler, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this episode went way longer than I thought it would. Holy shit.
Yeah, but, seriously. We're gonna not harp on the trailers and news too much today.
All right, and scene. My top 10 horrors of 20. Sorry, Mateo. I'm sorry. All right. Top 10 horrors of the 2020s. At number 10, I have Late Night with the Devil. Number 9, Evil Dead Rise. Number 8, Crimes of the Future. 7, Infinity Pool. 6, Saw 10. 5, Talk to Me. 4, The Black Phone. 3, Watcher. 2, The First Omen. And 1, Jordan Peele's Nope.
Am I going? Okay.
You are going.
Top 10 horrors of the 2020s so far. 10, I have His House. 9, I have The Night House. 8, I've got Barbarian. 7, I've got Longlegs. 6, When Evil Lurks. 5, Chime. 4, The First Omen. 3, Mad God. 2, Nope. And 1, Titane.
My top 10 movies of the decade. My top 10 horror movies of the decade. At number 10, I have We're All Going to the World's Fair. Number 9, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Number 8, Talk to Me. Number 7, Watcher. Number 6, Evil Dead Rise. Number 5, Titane. Number 4, I Saw the TV Glow. Number 3, Longlegs. Number 2, Malignant. And number 1, Nope. That'll wrap up our that'll wrap up our long 2.5 hour horror segment. We got a couple of trailers which we'll talk about. The news isn't like too much, but we can run through that quickly. Trailers though, Gladiator, that's the big one. Obviously discourse all week has been, yo, what the hell is this Jay-Z song doing in a fucking Gladiator trailer? It's there because it's sick. That's why it's there. It's really fucking cool. And if you just want to Google. Yeah, beyond that, Google No Church in the Wild lyrics, read them, and then rewatch the trailer, and you'll stop being stupid. But trailer bangs. I think what I'm most excited for right now is the water Coliseum scene. That's going to be insane. That once I saw that in the trailer, Ridley Scott could have released that one quick 2-second part of the trailer, and I still would be as excited as I am. That one part is what sold me. Absolutely insane. I know the three of us and Cam, I mean, everyone is excited except for weirdos. But yeah, thoughts on the Gladiator trailer?
Yeah, it looks cool. I'm most excited just to see. I tweeted this. Just Denzel across from Paul Mescal. That is like just riffing out as a crazy combo. Also, the rhino. Just a side note, because I hope we get more animals and stuff as well. Rhino's crazy.
A rhino.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, all the Coliseums. So I mean, I'm really excited for this. A lot of the like discourse, like you said, has been on the song. Also, by the way, fucking cool song, and it makes sense. And it's like, you know, there's been so many, like The Great Gatsby. I think had, I can't remember what it was now. People were mentioning that. No one said anything about that one, but you know, whatever. And it's like people have been saying like, why is Denzel doing like a New York accent in or something? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What do you expect? Didn't he speak English? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? Like, Ridley Scott isn't a man who is known for his historical accuracy. If you want a fucking drab Colosseum film, do you know what I mean? Like, we're all speaking Latin. I think they spoke Latin, I'm going to guess. Do you know what I mean? Or something. It's just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we complaining about? Also, who complains about Denzel Washington in the film? Like, if you do, you're a moron. No offense.
We know the kinds of people that would.
Yeah. We do. I think we do. Yeah. Because I think, you know, it has something to do with the rap in the trailer as well. But, you know, whatever. Yeah, I think it looks really cool. I mean, I will say, just as like a you know, prefaces, I will say, like, when Napoleon trailer came out, I watched like 10 times, and that was like the most 3 out of 5 film ever for me. So I'm not going to try and go too high with it, because again, it's Ridley Scott, who I do think has made some good films recently, like The Last Duel, like Alien Covenant. But again, I'm a bit worried. But it should be good. Everyone points towards it. Oh, Joseph Quinn looks fucking cool as well. Okay,
yeah, really I think he's on a crazy run right now, like with movies about to come out. But yeah, I think it looks cool. I mean, I think, and I didn't want to tweet this obviously because I love the song in the trailer, so like I didn't want people to get the wrong idea. But I think it's like not a good trailer in terms of the fact that it's like 3 minutes, three and a half minutes long of like, and it's kind of like start to finish. I feel like it kind of goes by the highlights of the film, and I feel like it showed so many moments.
Every trailer.
If I saw the Coliseum the first time in the movie, I would have been like, "Fuck yeah!" And I know some people, especially in our film talk group chat, are like, "Oh well, like who cares about narratives? Like it's all visual storytelling." Which, like, yeah, sure, fair, but I still care about narratives. Like I don't care. I know film is a visual medium, but I still want cool stories and I want stuff to be surprising. That's why I like the Longlegs marketing so much, because it didn't tell you shit about what that movie is.
Yeah. Question for you guys.
Movie.
I'm not a fan of long trailers either, but does your take on like a 3-minute trailer for a movie that's an hour and 45 minutes compared to a 3-minute trailer for an almost 3-hour movie? Does that change?
Do we know the runtime for it?
I think it's 2:30 or 2:40. I think it's 2:30.
2 hours 36. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I mean, I'm not even talking necessarily about the length. I'm talking necessarily about like when you watch the trailer from start.
Yeah,
it very much feels like you're watching like
maybe that's not
1, 3, scene 7, scene 10. You know, kind of like.
Imagine that's the first like 30 minutes of the film. He just played you. That'd be great. Yeah. I know what you mean though, because I think it's a case where it's usually these kind of high budget blockbusters where they are like chronological, like timeline. It's just this like really 3 minutes of it. So I do know what you mean with that. Let's just hope that maybe that isn't the final. Maybe Pedro Pascal and Paul Mescal. That's not the final.
Yeah, maybe that fight is the first scene of the movie.
Yeah, that's like the get go, and then Pedro Pascal gets whacked, and then he's just out the rest of the film. It's just Paul Mescal just fucking with Denzel. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks cool. But I definitely get the complaints that side about the trailer. I just don't really understand.
It's like $1 million movie, so they have to make their money back somehow. So
which they won't, by the way.
No, they won't. But they got to make as much as possible. And trailers like that, they kind of show a lot of stuff, more speak to the masses. I feel like, as opposed to a lot of people like us, where it's like, just tell me Gladiator 2 is coming out and just leave it there. I don't need to see anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cam's not here, but I could touch on it a bit. Captain America: Brave New World. I don't care. We also got a trailer to We Live in Time.
Your TikTok.
You do it. I can't do your bit again. You can't.
I'm gonna keep doing that bit. No,
have you actually watched it, George?
I have watched it. I did watch it. It's.
I think it looks so ugly. Like,
dude, it looks so ugly. Like that one shot of like Falcon with or Captain America now. I apologize. But that one shot of Captain America with like the pink trees in the background is just the most obvious shit shot ever. And I don't know. I've been obviously very checked out of the MCU for quite some time. Like outside of like Guardians 3, there hasn't been anything that's really pulled me in too much lately. And I did not think a new Captain America movie was going to do that, you know, justice. Unfortunately, I guess I'm excited to see Harrison Ford, but I don't much care for like Red Hulk. I know a lot of people are like freaking out about that, but
what is it? Just I don't know what Red. Is it just Red Hulk? It's just like
Red Hulk, just another version.
Why is he red?
Yeah. He's not like He's not the
It's not
Hulk.
Bruce Banner.
It's like it's not Bruce Banner. It's another.
It's a different version. Okay.
Yeah. That's it's Harrison Ford.
Like Hulk who'd been like died. You know.
No, it's
Just,
Yeah, I can't wait to see Harrison Ford's CGI face on the Red Hulk though. That'll be cool.
yeah, that's gonna look.
Oh, is he Red Hulk?
Yeah.
Yes.
Harrison Ford, old man ass face is going to be on a Hulk.
Harrison Ford is playing Thunderbolt.
That's worth day one right there, Seth. For me
That might be a day one seating right there. That's
if you just talk about trailers that show much, please never show us his face in the trailer. Please don't.
Do it like Nick Cage.
It's
like
the new
Nick Cage and
from
Longlegs.
Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. That floating image. No, I don't give a shit.
We're gonna get marketing of Anthony Mackie's heart rate reaching 170 because he saw fucking Thunder because they saw Harrison Ford's face on a red Hulk and just couldn't believe his eyes.
Yeah, that's so.
But no, I don't give a shit about this. But I'll give a benefit of the doubt to the VFX artists. I know that there's like a year still till this movie comes out, and I know they changed a lot of stuff. So
it's been a year.
You know, it's probably gonna look pretty ugly. But some of the stuff I think might be a little cleaned up. Like I think Deadpool and Wolverine in one of their shots looked quite different in the most recent trailer than like before with the color grade and stuff. So I'm sure, and same with the F1 trailer, which I thought looked ugly. I'm sure they're gonna clean that up a bit. So I'll give them benefit of the norm
for a year. Is it actually going on in a year's time?
In terms of like trailers, I feel like this is a little earlier than normal for the trailer.
That is early, isn't it?
I think they wanted to do it before Deadpool and Wolverine, probably to be like, here's what's coming up next in the MCU. But yeah, whatever. It's gonna be a movie for sure.
We also got a trailer to We Live in Time, which is Andrew Garfield, Florence Pugh, romance. I was about to say romantic comedy, but I don't think it's a comedy.
I don't think it'll be funny.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be funny at all. I tweeted immediately like, dude, I'm not watching this movie. Not because I think it looks shit, but because I don't think I could physically handle it. But it looks good. It really does look good. It looks like it's going to hit all the proper emotional beats. And not enough needs to be said about, Andrew and Florence. They're two of the best working actors. What?
Two of the best working today.
Yeah, two of the best working today. Anything from you guys?
No, I think it's quite interesting. I know it's directed by the same guy who did the Black Mirror episode, isn't it? The one with Aaron Paul and was it Josh Hartnett? Yeah. It's directed by the same guy. Yeah. I think it looks really interesting. And again, I hope it's not like a Foe. Did you watch Foe, George? Entirely you did, didn't you? I hope it's not like that. You know what I mean? It says like the two Paul Mescal, Saoirse Ronan. But yeah, I mean, with like I said, Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, and I'm going to watch it because just for those two alone. So yeah, hopefully it's cool. It looks good.
Very nice. And then before Longlegs was the first screening of the Anora trailer. I know we got like a little teaser on Twitter like a week or two ago, but the official trailer dropped before Longlegs. I don't know if that was every screening. I don't know if you guys saw it.
We don't get any of this.
I got it, yeah.
We don't get any of it. Like we didn't get Nosferatu, for example. We don't get any of this shit. It's so annoying, man. I went to see the Bike Riders for Nosferatu, basically. I didn't even get it.
And you didn't get the trailer?
No.
Just slap in the fucking face.
I know, it's crazy.
And you didn't even love the Bike Riders.
No, so that's why I went.
But yeah, Nora trailer looks good. I don't really have like too many thoughts. It's honestly, I had no idea what the movie was about. So the trailer was actually kind of cool to like experience for the first time in a theater. But it looks good. This I guess prostitute marries a Russian something. Yeah, we don't know like why he's coming into
like
money.
He's rich.
Yeah, rich for some reason, and just it causes a whole whirlwind of like, oh, you shouldn't be married to him, blah blah blah. But it looks good.
The opening reviews are really good from Cannes. It won the Palme d'Or, didn't it?
They won the Palme d'Or. Yeah, and a lot
George thinks it's a stupid trophy.
It is a dumb trophy. Whatever.
What was that from our Q&A?
I need to get on my. I need to watch.
Throw that in my batch of hot takes.
Yeah, I need to watch some of Sean Baker's films because I've not seen any of them, and all of them look really interesting. I've not even seen the Florida Project, which is like the one which is probably the most famous, I would say, the most well known.
Yeah, and then Red Rocket's probably number 2, I'd say for
like Tangerine, I think is as well. That's really well known. So yeah, I need to watch them. We watch some of his films.
He doesn't have a ton, so it won't take you too long.
Yeah, true.
All right, that wraps up trailers. I'm going to skip over a couple of news bits that I don't think any of us actually care to talk about. But Toy Story 5, Shrek 5, both releasing summer of 26. 2 movies that shouldn't exist to begin with.
Hey, we like Shrek. How dare you?
All right, sure.
Shrek 4 is the most. I forgot that movie existed. Movie.
Shrek 4 is not bad.
I don't even know if I've seen it, but I'm like, I know for a fact I've seen it, but I don't actually know if I've seen it. You know what I mean? Catch my
I think
drift?
that's Shrek 3. I think Shrek Forever After is pretty cool, but Shrek 3 is like, okay, whatever.
Puss in Boots is the best of the Shrek franchise.
No! Shrek 1 and Shrek 2.
Wish. I apologize. Not
No,
the first.
Shrek 1 and
I
Shrek
still don't think it's
2.
the best, but I was just making sure because the Puss in Boots one is like kind of lame, but
It's
Puss in
actually
Boots
not that bad if I remember correctly. But yeah.
No, I don't think any of them are bad movies. I don't think any of them are bad, but
No, I don't.
And then,
Donkey will be bad.
Donkey will be bad. Donkey isn't a character that deserves a solo film. Unless we get to find out, like Cam said, how he actually makes the babies with the dragons. That would be
that's
kind of
what
crazy.
we're
Yeah,
not
that'd be
gonna
interesting.
get into that before we get weirded out by dragon donkey sex. Sam Raimi is set to direct a new horror film titled Send Help, being described as a thriller set on an island, like a horror version of Castaway. Fuck it. I mean, that's that. Everyone, I feel like the general audience knows Sam Raimi as the superhero guy, the Raimi trilogy of Spider-Man movies, but horror, that's his ballpark. He came back to basically redirect Multiverse of Madness, and he essentially did it as a favor for Kevin Feige, and that movie made a good chunk of money. So he's kind of like, fuck it, I have hella funds. Let me cash them in and just make this, like, let me get back to my roots. It's probably going to be some hilariously practical effects heavy horror film that I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, are very excited to watch. Seth, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts.
Not really. I mean, same as you. He hasn't directed one, I think, since like Drag Me to Hell, which is like late 2000s, I think. I think that was the last one, I'm pretty sure. So really, really exciting. And I think the Castaway concept of just the horror in general, but you know, within that kind of that works, and that's something that I probably thought about before. You know what I mean? I think Raimi's just a cool guy to do it. So yeah, really, really excited for this. Really excited.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, listen, we are crossing that 3-hour mark, but I think when we cut down the intro, it'll probably be a little less than 3 hours. But regardless, long episode, a lot of fun talking horror with the guys. A lot of fun talking Longlegs and just kind of getting into our top 10 horror movies of the decade. If you've made it this far in the episode, we appreciate you. Thank you for sticking with us till the end. And let us know your top 10, top 5, top 3, top 2, top 1 horror movie of the decade. Did any of us exclude anything off of our lists that you would have liked to see? Shout out our executive producers, as always, Stefan Johnson, Stefan Niebrick, and Sean Morales. Shout out all of our patrons. Shout out anyone that engages in our content and just comes back week to week to listen to a bunch of dudes yap about films we enjoy. And sometimes films we don't enjoy, like Challengers. But that'll wrap up Real Talk episode 97. And we will see you guys on Thursday for a draft of the best summer vibes movies. And then we will see our patrons on Friday, where I believe it'll just be Tyler and I reviewing Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut.
Good for you, George. Good for you. That's all I'm going to say. I would have not been happy, chappy.
Peace.